Good morning, everyone. My fellow commissioners and our staff and our guests and our public, thank you for joining us this morning. I will call to order the Lander County Commissioners Town Board of Battle Mountain and Austin Board of County Highway Commissioners for February 28, 2019. And we will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Sparks, would you lead us this morning on that?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. And now if you'll join us in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. We do ask for you to please put your cell phones on vibrate or silence or mute or whatever you're comfortable doing so we don't have the interruptions. Lander County Commissioners may break for lunch from 12 o'clock noon to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Begin with our commissioners' reports, and I'll start with you, Commissioner Clark. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. I had a meeting with, an informal meeting with Cliff Eklund, Itor Narvesa, Ron Unger, Keith Westengard, and myself to discuss what approach the rural counties are going to use to counter the Democrat legislature and what they're doing to the Constitution of the United States and the state constitution. We have 14 counties in New Mexico, 26 counties in Illinois, 2 in Colorado just this last week. I contacted the vice chair of Douglas County. They were set to get started on it this week. And the veterans, out of Clark County, I believe, the Veterans Warrior Defense Fund started a lawsuit against Governor Sisolak and the state on SB 143. I'll be watching this stuff and reporting back to the commission every month.
Thank you. Commissioner Allen, we're going to jump over to your side if you have some reports for us, please.
Well, I did attend the NACO meeting February 22nd. Not a whole lot to share in that regard. We did meet with the new state director of the BLM, John Raby. He's got a lot of experience. Younger gentleman, very pleasant, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes, or I guess changes, might come about in the state of Nevada. One of the other things we discussed is, now there are some bills that NACO is following, but we did get a list of most of the bills that are before the legislature. So if anybody's interested in those, it's just got a really short synopsis of what the bill entails. Basically a little description, who's sponsoring it, and you know, which what's it called when like legislative, not legislative, but your agriculture committee, your commission on tax and labor, which divisions of the legislature are it's being presented through. So, like I said, if anyone would like a copy of these, just let me know. I can get you. It's several pages. It's kind of interesting. So that's about it.
Thank you.
I did not attend any extra meetings this go round, so I don't have anything to report.
Thank you, Kathy.
Brian?
Nothing to report.
Okay. I'd like to share a few things with you. On February 19th, I did have my telephone conference. This is with the Justice and Public Safety National Committee of NACO. And of course, since we have, actually this weekend coming up, we have our NACO annual conference in Washington, D.C., and our JPS group has got several resolutions that they're watching. I've shared the one with you that seems so close right now, which is the behavioral health issue. Because in Nevada, the county jails are one of the largest providers of behavioral health issues in our state. NACO supports the new policies and approaches that would enhance the county ability to prevent and treat these, and I've spoken to you before about it with the mental illness and how we can pull them out. Actually, mental illness and substance abuse, both. But we're looking to handle that within the community if it's something that it's still within the criminal justice system, but if they're nonviolent individuals and we can do that with overall public safety, we'd like to approach that, and that's what a lot of their resolutions are going towards. We also support the extension of the Medicaid to individuals detained in our county jails, because right now that stops. And as long as someone doesn't have a disposition and they're just there and innocent until proven guilty, why are they suspending the Medicaid? And the counties are picking it up. So we've really been working on that for a long time. And if they are actually found guilty and they end up in incarceration, we would like to see them suspend the Medicaid and not terminate it. It makes it so much easier for them when they are released to pick it back up again. So those are the main items for the Justice and Public Safety. On the 21st, I did attend the Kingston Town Board. And of course, they're getting ready for their big fundraiser. They have 2 a year, and this is the St. Patrick's dinner, which comes up March 16th on Saturday. And they do have 12 active volunteer firefighters. And they have started what they call a fire creation fund and fire relief fund. And it's just done with private donations, but it's for some of the lower income folks that may have a fire in their home, and most of them do have some type of health insurance, some type of fire insurance, but they still have some high deductibles, $500, $1,000, whatever. So the relief fund, the committee will meet and try and assist these people by meeting some of their deductible. So it was kind of an interesting thing, and they've got quite a few private donations to do that. They had a fire right after Christmas, and that helped on that one. On the 22nd, of course, was our NACO meeting, and Judy reported on some of that. Yes, John Raby, our new Nevada director of BLM, says he's really updating a lot of our regulations for grazing. We appreciated him coming to NACO, and he's got 5 pilot projects out there that they're kind of looking at that are going to be more favorable in the grazing area. So we're excited that he's part of it and working with us and see what he can do. It's great to have somebody full-time. NACO also supported the National Horse and Burro Rangeland Management Coalition meeting. They would like to meet in Nevada, and I think they're going to be meeting about May. So NACO pledged $1,000 for them to come, and I can't remember the other state now. Do you offhand? Somebody else was looking at it, but we thought we'd really like them in Nevada to show some of our information. By large margin, Nevada has the largest population of wild horses and burros on public lands of any state, and so we'd kind of like to see them come to our area so we can show them what's really going on. The growth is about 15 or 20% a year, but the herds double in size every 4 years, and we've talked about that at some length with what our situation is. So that would be nice to have a summit or a conclave, as they call it here. We did have an approval. Washoe County stepped up and said that they would host our annual meeting for NACO this year. The national one, of course, is Clark County is hosting, in July. And because of that, they're taking a lot of our sponsors. So we're really cutting down on the NACO annual meeting. It'll just be 2 days long, a day of our workshops to get your credits and such, and then one full day of meetings. So it will be September 25th and 26th, and it will be held at the Nugget. Judy mentioned a little bit on the bills. There are so many bills, and NACO is on top of all of them that impact the county in any way, and there are quite a few. Some of them, even though we're impacted, it's going to go through, and it's going to be what it is, whether it's union negotiations or liability. And so it's like choose your fights, or the expression there was keep your powder dry until you need it. So there's some big ones that we really have to go against that would mean so much for the liability of the counties. And I can see some that they're expanding on some of the benefits that would just kill all the insurance and pool pack totally. So we'll keep you informed as it goes along, but I want you to know NACO's on the ball, and they're at the meetings. Anything that affects the counties in any way at all, they will be there. At the same time, the Department of Agriculture, and February 22nd is the same time as the NACO meeting, the Department of Agriculture had a meeting in Austin. I think they had one the day before in Battle Mountain regarding the Mormon crickets and the grasshoppers. And of course, I couldn't go, but we did have representation. Frank Whitman attended for us here, and Michelle from our office in the South attended, and said it was very informational on what we have to look at. We bought a pallet of the bait last year, and if you look at the map, I mean, Austin was like, we have it, and then Humboldt and Pershing had it. Battle Mountain didn't really, but we had an area. Are we still on with Austin? Michelle, are you there?
We're still here.
Oh, okay, I heard a phone ringing, and I thought we might have got disconnected.
That was
Okay.
feedback.
Anyway, we did buy some pallets of the poison, but we don't know whether that's the exact ingredients that they wanted us to use. Rick Harden was also there from Road and Bridge, so he's checking on that. But they were quite explicit over where we can bait and what we can do and what's going on. I was under the impression, and people had told me for years, that if you have freezing temperatures, that will take care of all that, those in the ground, and they won't come back. But that's not true. He said they just sit there in the ground. Those eggs just lay there and wait for a good year with the right moisture and the right temperature, and boom, we've got it. And I know you folks up in Battle Mountain don't get that, but man, when they are everywhere, your solid door is crickets, and we did have to close the swimming pool last year and everything. It's really bad. It wasn't as bad last year as it's been over some of the other years. So they're on top of that. And on Monday, I was invited to a lunch and to speak with some of the ORMAT folks. They came in from Reno. There was like 20 employees that work in different business development and operations, but they've never been out to McGinnis Hills. And of course, they're in their third phase. And so they came in and they asked me to address them over what they have done for our county and what kind of an impact that was. And that was kind of interesting because I've known a couple of the vice president that we've worked with for years, and we talked a little bit about the lawsuit. I didn't bring it up, they did. But the point is, regardless of what happened with the abatement or the retroactive abatement, then we did lose some big funds on that. It's over and done. And so it's like, what can you do now? And I said, the mines have supported the northern part of Lander very, very well. But we really don't have all the support in the south. And here's this big geothermal conglomerate. We're going, what can you do to help our community? They can't make their employees live somewhere else, of course. I mean, they can't, that would be great to grow a little bit. But they can help our community. And so they said actually they would pledge some, and that if we have something going on with whatever, from the airport to the schools to individual associations that are nonprofit that would like their help on something, I have the contact, and they're happy to do that, so on the record, we appreciate that. And then we talked a little bit about the roads, and I said we've had a big time because our Public Works Director has not been getting answers. Again, they apologized, they said we'd love to help, we'd love to have more roads and improve. I said, well, I know we sent you a bill and you paid it, but we want to be able to work with them. And so hopefully, that, it was an excellent meeting. I appreciated all their support, and we're gonna go forward on that with some good things in the future. And that's my report.
Would you go back to the nonviolent,
Yes,
would you go back to that again?
yes, what I said was, and I've spoken to this before, if we have nonviolent folks, in other words, they were picked up for something that was nonviolent, they might be in jail because of parking ticket, not a parking ticket, a speeding ticket they didn't pay, and perhaps got a bench warrant or something, but they're nonviolent people there, and if they have behavioral health issues, that we need to address that, and we can address it outside of the court system. We can actually release them and work with them to get some help on the mental side, instead of just keeping them in jail.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, staff reports. Keith?
Okay, I think pretty much everybody is aware, we are currently actively recruiting for a county health nurse. Abby's leaving the county, she's accepted another position, so we are actively recruiting for that position. I had a meeting with the Cooperative Extension yesterday to discuss the educator there, and they hope to have something in place there in about 6 to 8 months, they hope. I talked with Holly, is it Gratsky? I'm not sure how you pronounce it. She said she met you at NACO. So, anyway.
Oh,
that was-
Holly.
Holly, yes.
Holly, oh, yes. Yeah, she's the
regional-
northern
Northern
region
Region
of
Director, yeah.
Cooperative Extension, yes.
Yes. So they're working on that. They would really, there's several openings throughout the state, so they are working on that. Monday, Cindy's gonna attend the city county tax, meeting to see if we can maintain our waiver, with Rex. She'll still be down in Carson Monday to see about that. Our, letter of corrective action, I received a letter from the Department of Taxation. Our letter of corrective action related to our audit has been accepted. They're happy with it, so that's very good for us. I also received a letter from SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Society, or office. The old courthouse has been put up to be nominated for the State Historic Register. That meeting will be Wednesday, March 20th. I'm going to try to attend or be on a conference call there. Really, I think the rest of the stuff is on here, and that has to do with our Army Corps of Engineers. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I did want to mention, I talked about our national NACO meeting coming up. It's called a legislative conference because we have a number of cabinet people that will be speaking to us, and of course, we try and get to the Nevada delegation with the different priorities that we have. But one of the meetings that we have set up is with the Secretary of Navy regarding the withdrawal on the Fallon complex. So we actually just got the approval on that yesterday. And so that will be an interesting one. We did send our comments in, but one of the big things that it doesn't have in that contract that we have been fighting for with NACO is mitigation. There's no mitigation anywhere in any of their information. And it's like, okay, so we're gonna offer you $100 for your property and, or your AUMs or whatever, and on we go. And that was one of the big things, but there's a couple that we're working on now.
There's two things that I would like addressed by NACO. One, and I mentioned this before, all this legislation against the Second Amendment, and the latest thing, this infanticide stuff that's going on. And I don't care if there's Democrats in NACO. I want Republicans to stand up and honor their oath of office.
Well, I understand your point, and I'm happy to talk with you afterwards on what we might be able to do.
Talking afterwards doesn't get it done, Patsy. Let's get
Yes.
it done.
after a bill has already gone through, there really isn't any position that we can take. NACO is not going to file lawsuits over something like that.
They help with the sage grouse.
Yes,
Okay.
but the law hasn't, it isn't a law that's gone through. We're still in.
That's why you get involved before, and you protest.
Okay, thank you. Individually, we were there. We didn't have time to do anything. You know that. We were told, what, a week ahead of time before the bill that you're discussing came up.
Well, the 143 bill, none of the Republicans knew about it until the 8th, and it was totally orchestrated by the Democrats, so.
Then thank you. That's why we didn't take a position. Public comment for non-agendized items only. Persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend and make comments on any non-agenda item at the board meeting, if any, and discussion of those comments at the discretion of the board. All public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. On our consent agenda, all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine, may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action without extensive discussion. Any
Excuse
member
me,
of the board
Patsy.
or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately during this meeting.
Chairman, I'm sorry. You did read the public comment, but you didn't ask if there was any.
I didn't stop. I just gave you all this opportunity. And, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Do we have any public comment? Okay. Hearing none, I'll continue the consent agenda. Thank you so much. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's Office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal charge. Number 1, approval of agenda notice February 28, 2019. Number 2, approval of January 24, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 3, approval of February 14, 2019 meeting minutes. Number 4, approval of payment of bills. And number 5, approval of payroll change requests. We do have to pull number 2 and number 3, no minutes. On number 5, there are no payroll change requests. And I do believe we need to pull some checks out, so we will pull out payment of bills. That's number 4. Golly, that leaves us for a motion to approve the agenda notice.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved by Judy, seconded by Kathy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, on the approval payment of bills, we have, let's see, Brian, you want to pull one out? 202095?
202095, yes.
Okay. And Judy for travel expenses, 209827?
Correct.
And I have travel expenses for 207202. So with that, I need a motion to approve check number 202095. That's for Brian.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Judy made the motion. Kathy seconded it. Any other discussion?
I abstained just simply because it's made to my employer.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you. That passes. We need a motion for the, pull out the check for Judy, 209827.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll second.
Kathy seconds. Thank you. Any
And I
other-
will abstain from that. And that was travel expense for the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority.
Thank you, Judy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, that passes. And the other one is my travel expense, 207202.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Judy made the motion, Kathy seconded it, and I will be abstaining because of travel expense. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And that takes care of our
Well,
consent
actually,
agenda.
You have to do the rest of the bills.
I will make a motion to approve the payment of the remaining bills.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Judy made the motion, Kathy seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, takes care of all of the payment of bills. Number 1, discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove a request by Frank Whitman to hire someone for technical assistance in developing the language for the Atlantic County Lands Bill and a lobbyist to represent the bill and all other matters properly related thereto. Morning, Frank.
Morning,
Morning,
Commissioners.
Frank.
Good morning.
This is one we've been working on for some time, so if you'd like to give us the background on it.
I will. I'm a little stiff. I have a little sciatica from shoveling all that snow in Austin. Several years ago, the county started down the road to put together a public lands bill. And we have, I'm jumping ahead. So we copied together a list of parcels to be remanded to the county and one to the Austin Historical Society. The one to the Austin Historical Society has been on the back burner for at least 10 years through 3 different forest secretaries in Carson, and has always fallen through the slot. So I bring that. I say that because this is you might call it a house cleaning bill. That is, there's nothing really controversial about what we have proposed so far. I'd say about 4 years ago, we brought it to Amadei's attention. Amadei was interested, but Barrick wanted to square away some land issues they had with Cortez. And we decided at a meeting, I think Keith was there, and I think Kyla was there, Jan Morrison was there, that we would run with, save the county money and run with the expertise that Barrick had and use their, literally just use their lobbyists and run on their coattails. And we had left that be for well over a year, and I ran into one of the Barrick guys at the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority and asked him what's up, and he said, "Oh, we're beyond that. We've given up. We're not going to pursue that." But he had failed to let Lander County know that we were back on our own if we did want to pursue the land bill. So I got a hold of Amadei's office again and asked, where we're at, where we're going, what we need to do, and what we need to do is we have to provide the language. That is the legalese. This is a bill, Congress, USA, stuff like that. And we also need to. Well, again, I'm jumping ahead. So I have contacted 2 outfits that could do that kind of writing for us. One is in Carson and one is in DC. Both are capable, and both are actually on the phone if you wish to call them, although you don't need to call them. And Keith could call and make those negotiations later today, but if you did want to, they're both standing by. The one in Carson it can do the language but does not have the expertise in Washington. The one in Washington does have both the expertise and the contacts. He is a lobbyist. He's done land bills before. He was actually Reed's public lands guy. He's been worked with Masto. Doesn't know Rosin. Nobody. I mean, Rosin's so new. Not a lot of people know her. And has worked with Amadei and other counties, other states with lands bills. And I think you may have read in the news. A lands bill similar to this recently did just go through Congress. It did get passed. It was a bipartisan effort, and once in a while our Congress can do something together these days. That bill, if you look at it, actually had I don't know how many, I lost count, maybe at least 20 of these smaller counties who had all these little house cleaning issues, trying to clean everything up, were all cobbed together in this one large lands bill that went through, and that's what would happen with ours. Ours would get put together, would go through committee and then wait till they had a bunch together, and then it would be one single bill going through Congress. So the choice really comes down to either a Carson or a DC or you could go out and try to find another lobbyist or a script writer. However, the guy in Carson actually said, "Oh, Kai Anderson in DC, he's your guy." He said, "I can do it, but I can't do it as good as he can. I would actually recommend the guy in DC if I was, spending your money," which I really appreciated, having his honesty and insight on that. He just felt that the DC guy had the depth and breadth of experience to see this through. So that's where we're at. The bill itself, or the parcels, are, I say non-controversial. Some of them are mandated by law, such as the EPA requires that we own 40 acres around every municipal wellhead. Currently that's BLM land. We can be fined if we don't. One of those, those catch-22 things that the feds require a county to do, and then you can't do it. Other ones are things like your, in the north here, part of your golf course, I think, is still owned by the, or you lease it from the BLM. The BLM would like, you've been in negotiations, I think, for at least 4 years about how to make this happen, how to convey that to the county. In the southern part of the county, things like Kingston has a gravel airstrip. It's just sitting there, it's rutted out. For the county to really want to invest or do anything long-term, the way it would just be best if we owned it, and the BLM has no need for it. It's just one of those things that are left over. So out throughout the county, there are these pieces of property that for house cleaning purposes would be better suited now or sooner or later. I mean, the county would need to act on them. You could do it today, or you could wait 10 years, but sooner or later, all these parcels will become an issue, or could become an issue. What the bill does not go into does not tackle the, if you've been following public land issues, it will not tackle the wilderness study areas or the checkerboard lands along the Humboldt. And there is one other thing, just to throw it out there, as I understand, that Ormet has some land issues they'd like to square away, but that becomes then, it ratchets up the complexity of the bill and the lobbyist effort to get through a clean, you might say a clean house cleaning bill versus something that has some special interest in. Other counties, as you know, you've probably read, Clark County has a lands bill coming up for, I think it's 300,000 acres. 200 going to reserve for open space, 150 for development, 50 for wilderness area. And Washoe had one that they presented or tried to put forward, was shot down. There were just too many special interests. It was just a blatant giveaway to developers, and the feds weren't comfortable with that. Locally, you probably have read or heard of some of the success that Pershing County has. They've worked on their bill that I'm aware of hard for about 8 years. I mean, these bills don't happen overnight, and the opportunities don't always present themselves. But a bill is in Congress. It's cleaned up enough, but they spend hours and hours of meetings and with various groups. They're also resolving their wilderness study areas. Whether you approve of that or not is another issue, but it is Pershing County's decision.
I think Pershing just had theirs attached to one of the omnibus bills, like
It
it's
could
gonna
have
be
been the
voted
bill
on like right
that
around
passed.
now.
I've lost track, and I don't know if that was.
I think that's like right now. I think it got attached to one.
Okay. So Pershing did decide to resolve their wilderness study areas, and that would be a decision for you, the lobbyist, and if you wanted to pursue that. But that as I said, adds a level of complexity. We did talk with, started down the road of resolving those, just in a very broad sense. And the commissioners, the last commissioners did vote to support Bert Paris in resolving of the Augusta Mountain Wilderness. That's the one that we have that borders Churchill and Pershing County and Lander County, a little section over there. And I actually had all the players that seemed to agree, all the rational players, that is the ranchers, there's some mining interests, had them all, everybody figured out, well, this is what I really need or not need, I can give up this. And had Friends of Nevada Wilderness, Sierra Club, a couple of those kind of outfits, the ones you can talk to. We know that Western Watersheds will always protest anything. It's just how it is. But I say that because the wilderness study areas could be resolved I know that some of you may remember last year about this time, Heller was going to propose legislation, and part of his campaign promise was to do so, and he didn't, and they're, as usual, left out there floating around unresolved. So where does that bring us today? So Amethyst people wanted to hear, make sure that the new commissioners, Brian and Kathy, as well as the rest of the board, continues to want to proceed in the direction of a lands bill. And the second is we do need to write the language, and I recommend that we hire a lobbyist to work with Kyla and Keith. And the third thing I want to make sure that you understand is I have been charged by the last bunch of commissioners to run with this, and I haven't, but we've reached a juncture where it's going to cost. You always have the option to walk away. That is the county's option. We don't have to do anything. But if the county wanted to go ahead, you're going to have to spend some money at this point. So you know that's a decision you have to make. And I'm going to step away from this project at this juncture. I've lived in Lander County for 20 years, and believe me, it's been an adventure I have thoroughly enjoyed. But I have some health issues, and I will be moving to Fallon later this year. I need to be at a lower altitude. I have the COPD thing going on, and my lungs are slowly turning to sawdust, and being 3,000 feet lower would be best for my health. So this is a time I think it's a good time for me to step away from this project, and I will write a letter later, but I intend to fulfill my obligations for Austin Airport Board and Lander County Public Lands until July 1st, when I would renew, and at that time I expect to step away from those two boards, as well as the Humboldt River Water Board and the Central Nevada Water Board. It's just, I'm sorry, it would be a deep loss for me too. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to work on public land and water issues for the county. To me, I cannot stress, these may seem small decisions that come up to today, but they will affect this county and this state hugely in 10 and 20 years from now. So anyhow, that's where we're at, and I have the two numbers of the lobbyists. If you wish to give them a call now for any reason, or those can be conveyed to Keith, and Keith can make that decision. Again, I want to reemphasize the fellow in DC, I think, has the expertise to bring this package finally to home, whether it's a simple bill that we have on table right now, or if you want to make it more complex. I believe this is the fellow who can do the best job for the county. Any questions?
Yes, I think we all do, Frank. First of all, we are so sincerely in appreciation of your dedication and concern for our community and our county, and thank you for all the things you've done in running with this. Did you get any kind of cost estimate?
I do. I have. The cost estimate would vary so much between, am I just typing something out, here's your language, to, do you want me to make some phone calls? And that's why I left it for Keith to get a cost. I'm not in that position to know the full scope or desire of what.
Okay, so if we want to go forward, we have to look at the cost on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we'll get the other opinions here. But there's also another one. I know Kai Anderson has had some great successes, and he does a wonderful job. There's also another one, Congressman Porter, who's been very active with NACO, and he's running with some of the other county land bills. And he's not a congressman now, but past congressman. But he now is a lobbyist and writes the bills and such too. So we have a couple that we'd like to check with if we decide they want to go ahead. So with that, Art, you had some comments?
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm brokenhearted, but I'm devastated that you're not going to be around, Frank. You're one of the most articulate, well-read, devoted volunteers that I've ever met in my life. And to lose you, it's well, you're just a great guy. And I support anything that Frank comes forward with because it's well-researched and very well articulated. So let's
Thank
figure
you.
out how much we're gonna have to spend on this. This is very important for the county, and we cannot just walk away.
I said earlier, you know, you can do this now, or you can do it later, but someday the county will need to address these issues, and so.
So I just want to, basically complete agreement with everything that Art said. Totally shocked, and I'm sorry for your health, Frank, and truly will be missed. But, yeah, everything Art said, it's just, it's a sad day for Lander County.
I will miss Lander County. Just, like I said, especially living in Austin, it's been a 20-year adventure. It's been great. Thank you.
I do also feel that this is something that we should give Keith direction to move forward with.
And I have a question,
Mhm.
being a newbie.
Yeah.
When you say the issues that will happen in the future, what, can you look, because I wouldn't know, I have no idea, what will happen if nothing is done?
Sooner or
on this
later,
issue?
I'm projecting perhaps we have a more democratic, or a democratic president who has a more aggressive EPA, who wants to clear up these kinds of inconsistencies. Suddenly saying, why haven't you gotten this through Congress? And you say, well, you know, it's not like you can just get it done, and threaten to fine the county, for an example. Your parcel on the golf course, you know, again, I mean, sooner or later, the right thing to do is the county to own it. Another parcel was and I want to say thank you for your commissioners for the money that you've invested again in the Austin Airport, bringing it up to much higher standards, particularly for medevac and those sort of issues. I can't tell you how much well, anyhow, the history on that was that airstrip was built in World War II, Army Air Corps after World War II, somewhere early 50s, I believe. The BLM took it over, and then from there, about maybe 24 years ago, that was given to the county. When the BLM gave it to the county, they took out 1,000 acres. That's on the lands bill, is to return to the original boundaries, to the BLM boundaries for the Austin Airport, in case somewhere, someday down the line, they needed extra space. And it just makes sense. I mean, this was the original boundaries. We want the original boundaries. And so those are the kinds of things that, you know, if the county here wanted to add something or do some work on the checkerboard lands issue, you know, for your development in the north, I mean, to get a section of this land remanded to the county for an industrial park, you could be looking at, you could start now and this might get done in 2 years, or you're starting fresh with no other background, could take 8 or 10 years, and you know, that's a long time to be planning ahead or trying to have stuff available for development. And I should have said this before, insofar as the checkerboard land stuff, different counties have had different approaches, very, very different approaches. Our ranchers, who currently graze most of that area, like it the way it is, quite frankly. They would like to see, they've even, you know, for our ranchers to say this, would even like to see it develop in some sort of a water bank, that is, to bring more sinuosity to the river, so that it holds more river in a flood year, and as Judy would understand, that could be some inflow for some of the issues, the well pumping that has, we're looking at the Lovelock irrigation district, the Rye Patch irrigation district is saying that our wells are drawing water away from the river. Well, this could be a way to help flood it out. And by well monitoring over a period of years, you might even bring water back in to a place where we might not get dinged. As you know, that's one of the things that are out there that might cost those producers a certain percentage of their alfalfa to continue business.
I was just gonna say, excuse me, we can't begin to know the time that has gone into this to bring this bill up to where we are today. You know, like I said, we've tried it a couple times unsuccessfully to tack it on and such. So I guess one of the things that we do need to discuss is whether you do indeed want to work on it a little bit more and enhance it by adding something, or are you happy the way it is? Because I think this wouldn't be quite as volatile
Yeah.
going through as the other. And like Frank said, if we decided we wanted to go through today as it is, then we can get some quotes, bring it back to see what it's gonna cost us and who we might wanna go with. And then they lobby and wait to tack it onto something and go. So, I think with
Yeah,
everything
I've
the
said
way it
enough.
is, my personal opinion is that we go the way it is, but that's mine.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, because, you know, if we wanna make changes, I don't think we wanna make changes now, but in the future, if there's something else that we'd like to work on, let's get this done first. We can always work on something else later. And so I will make a motion that, you know, we approve the request by Frank, give Keith direction to, look into the costs involved in hiring a lobbyist and having someone write the verbiage for this bill.
I'll second.
Thank
Get
you.
back to us with the cost at the next
Right.
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever he gets it
Okay,
right. So Judy made the motion that we go forward with this, and Brian, you did the second.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll
None
get
opposed? Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, we're off and
Thank you,
running.
Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Number 2, update and information to the Lander County Board of Commissioners regarding the Battle Mountain Levee project by Summit Engineering and all other matters properly related thereto. You've got your whole crew here today, Tom. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
I didn't know the sheriff was gonna be here, I would have brought more.
Now, are you giving us information that we need to get to Austin?
We have a PowerPoint that includes the information we have.
Okay, can somebody get this faxed to Austin? They can't follow on the PowerPoint, but at least they can have the general information.
We can certainly send him a copy of it.
Well, yeah, these things are supposed to be done in advance before the meeting, so that the public has it and Austin has it, so.
Okay, well, whatever's appropriate. It's my mistake, I thought they were tied in to the computers. I was obviously wrong.
They are on by phone only.
All right.
So much for state of the art in Lander
You
County.
need to work on your technology.
Okay, we're gonna go off the record here and take a quick 5-minute break while they're setting up. Okay, thank you. And you folks are ready?
We're ready.
Okay, we are going to call the meeting back to order, and we are at number 2 with our presentation from Summit Engineering.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Tom Gallagher with Summit Engineering, and with me today are Clint Casey, who is Executive Vice President of Summit Engineering, and Anthony Newton, who's one of the design people on the levee project.
Michelle, can you hear him?
No, we cannot.
That's what I thought. Actually, that is for recording, that's not for,
Oh,
so you will have to really speak up. Put the phone up
And then turn it.
on the ledge, and please speak up.
All right, I'm gonna get something right here today. My name's Tom Gallagher with Summit Engineering, and with me today is Clint Teesey, who's been working since he was about 12 on the Lander County levy, and Anthony Newton. And we're here to give you an update on the levy and where we are with the project. We passed out a schedule to you, and I'm gonna have Anthony go through the PowerPoint and show you the things we are doing and let you know some of the changes that have been made in the actual alignment for wetland purposes and various other things that we've run into that need to be addressed. And with that, I'll let Anthony take it over. And who runs the PowerPoint?
Allie's gonna run it.
There we go. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good morning to the commissioners and the public in attendance today. Austin, can I ask you guys, did you receive the email of the PowerPoint from Allie just now?
No, it's just a
I'm printing it out right now.
Okay, great. So we are just on the title slide right now, and I'll just kind of tell you guys which slide we're on so you can follow along when you get it printed out. I'm going to have Allie switch over to the second slide right now, and we'll begin. So the first display we have here is something similar that we brought last time we were here. I wasn't in attendance, but Clint and Tom were. This kind of gives a good overall idea of how the levee's laid out and some key factors that go into the site overall. The fancy colored stuff that I'd like to point out is the green is what was found in the wetlands study, which we brought with us last time we were here. The red areas are our proposed borrow areas at the time for getting fill material for the levee itself. The orange dashed line is the existing levee that's out here right now. And the blue dashed line is our proposed alignment for the levee today. Just going through roughly how it's laid out, we'll start on the northernmost end, which is the downstream end in this case, because the Reese flows from south to north. It's going to start at State Route 806, which is, I guess, Reese Street coming into that, but it's going to start at State Route 806. We're going to come down Old River Road there and raise portions of that. Then we're going to cut south, hit Mule Shoe, and then switch to the other side of the existing levee that's out there. This was due to the wetlands in that area so that we could reduce the impacts to those and reduce the nightmare of a permitting process that would come along with that. Once we get to Mule Shoe, you head over to the Union Pacific Railroad tracks. We'll have a closure device there in the flood system, along with some reinforced concrete flood walls that are being designed by our structural subconsultant. Next, you head further south, hit Front Street. We'll be raising a few hundred feet of Front Street there, as long as across the floodplain to keep Front and Mule Shoe from overtopping in the event of a 100-year storm. So if that storm does come, those roads will still be accessible. It won't be overtopped in any places across the whole Reese floodplain.
Anthony, excuse me, can I stop you for 1
Yeah.
second? Just for clarification, when you're talking about raising Front Street a couple hundred feet, you're talking more linear,
Yes.
just for
Horizontal.
clarification?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Not this
Don't-
much, but we're going
don't
about a
know.
couple hundred feet along the roadway to raise it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the portion of to further clarify, the portion of the blue dash line that is over Front Street there, that's gonna be raised like 2 to 3 feet. And then everything outside of that to the east will be raised about 1 to 2 feet to keep it out of the floodplain. So going from front, we head further south, a butt into 80, so we won't be doing any changes to 80 still, as the plan's been all along. There will be another flood wall there on the downstream or north side of 80, where we hit the embankment there, and that is to try to keep that existing culvert structure that's there and convey flood out of it without having a big honking footprint from a levee infill. And then once you get past 80 there, further south, it just keeps going and we tie into Marble Ranch eventually. So that is the general layout today. There's a couple more lines on there that you can see. The magenta line is the proposed flood today from our hydrology subs modeling, and the cyan line is the existing one that FEMA had in place before we started modeling anything. So you can see that there hasn't been very many impacts or changes in where that line is hitting. There are some differences, but it's not anything enormous. But that takes care of that display. So Allie, can we go to the third slide, please?
You guys by chance have copies of the PowerPoint that we could look at? Because it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
It's, I'd like to understand a little bit better, but
Yeah.
if not now, possibly after the meeting.
Yeah,
get
we
it,
can
so-
we can get anything
Okay,
that you guys
perfect.
need, but yeah, sorry we don't have physical copies. These next few images are just some 3D images so that you can kind of see the relief of the levee there. And where we're looking at here is we're starting in the same spot that I started on that last display. So you can kind of see State Route 806 going up and to the left, and then the levee is there along Old River Road, and it stays on the west side of the existing levee there until we get to Muleshoe, and then it switches over. At the very bottom right-hand side of the screen, that is the crossing at the Union Pacific Railroad tracks, and that's where that flood closure and flood wall will be located that I had mentioned before. Can we go to slide 4, please, Allie? Moving further along, the upper left-hand corner of the image is where we left off at the railroad tracks. You can see the levee going down towards Front Street. There's a raised portion of Front Street there that I had mentioned, and then it comes out of Front Street to the south, heads towards 80. Again, there's another flood wall there. Can we go to the next slide, please? And then, as I mentioned before, once you get past 80, it just heads to the south and ties into Marble Ranch there at the end. That's just to give someone an idea of relative to what it might look like out there. Next, please.
One clarification we probably ought to put in here is, and why we're not reconstructing the existing levee, is the levee is considered jurisdictional by the Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
And if we touch the existing levee, the Corps has to go through whatever and probably more of what they went through for the last 5 years, which was very counterproductive to say the least. So we are trying our utmost to stay away from the levee, except for where we have to cross the roads, the railroad. There's no way we're gonna rebuild one of those crossings. So we're actually diverting the flood into the existing structures and staying away from the levee as much as we possibly can. And I know that doesn't make sense. You'd have to go to Washington and visit with them and find out why.
Oh, I've
Makes
listened to
sense to
them,
me.
I understand why. I have a
Anthony?
question on the raising Front Street. How did you establish this, that you had to raise it? Because, you know, thinking about Front Street and the culverts that go under, once you get past the last motel on the left-hand side, it's like 6 or 8 feet, I think, from the road down to the bottom of that culvert.
I'm Clint TC, and I'll answer that.
Okay.
One of the things we need on the entire levee system is a minimum of 3 feet of freeboard.
3 feet of,
Freeboard, dry ground above water level
Okay.
to the top of the levee.
okay,
And in order to achieve that and to create enough head on the 100-year storm to push water through all our culverts and still maintain that 3.5 feet at the structures,
okay.
that's what's creating the need to raise it up.
Okay, I got another question. Ron, did they change the culvert system under the railroad tracks after the flood in '62?
Yeah, they had to, they blew it up.
Okay.
The excavation was done.
That said something about Lander County and the state motto, "Vital Born."
Yeah. Barb, do you have any more questions?
No, I just was a little bit confused by that. It's scary,
So I do actually have a couple more, and regarding the raising of Front Street, so basically that's a state highway.
That's correct.
And is there gonna be any cooperation, cost share involved with the DOT on that?
I'm not sure there'll be any cost sharing, but we have met with DOT already with the District 3 engineer, and he understood what we were doing and did not see any issue with it. One of his biggest concerns was we're gonna have a series of new culverts under there, possibly look at putting that maintenance of those as far as cleaning in any event back on Lander County, but that was the most negative thing we heard out of the entire conversation.
So then my other question is, can you give me any idea, when you're meeting up on Marble Ranch Road, kind of the location of where that dike's gonna come out?
So if you know where the existing levee is right now, it would come to the west side of it, the existing levee, to Marble Ranch. And when we leave Marble Ranch, it would be right on the east side of the existing levee.
That, you may recall, that levee, that portion of the levee was moved at the request of the landowner to achieve developable property in between that.
Oh, Marble Ranch, I'm talking.
Yeah, no, you're talking.
I'm mixing it up, yeah.
Yeah, on Marble Ranch, we moved it back 500 feet to allow the property owner to have a 500-foot strip of what would in the future be commercial property between the road and the levee.
And then it's about a mile and a quarter south of Interstate 80 where it ties in.
Okay, I'm just trying to visualize,
Right.
like, if you go east from 305, where it would kind of cross Old 8A, Marble Ranch.
So I have a question. The distance between the old levee and the new levee, I mean, are they long, because it's hard, like you said, to see from the visions up there, what is the distance between the old one and the new one?
So can we go back to that first slide real quick, Ally?
Slide to it.
Yes. So, this is Anthony Newton again, by the way. Oh.
Let's back up. It's all right.
Slow down, Ally.
I can point it to.
Yeah, when you point, that would be great.
You wanna go here? First, Anthony?
Yeah. So the southernmost end, starting at State Route 806, along, or northernmost, sorry. I get backwards
Yeah.
because the stream flows south to north. I get mixed up all the time. So the northernmost end, the most downstream and tie-in of the levee, once we get past that portion of Old River that we're raising, and we run along the western side of the existing levee there, we're pretty much getting as close as we can to the toe of the existing levee without actually impacting the levee itself due to, it's formally known as the Section 408 permitting process through the Army Corps. So if we disturb anything that they have built, it could take 6 months to 2 years for them impacts that we have now, the logic behind it is that it might greatly reduce the time on that review process. Some of the places where we are impacting the existing Army Corps levee out there is where we switch over from the west side of the existing to the east side of the existing at Muleshoe. There's just a little bit of fill coming onto the top of it due to the raising of Muleshoe. At the railroad tracks, due to the close proximity of that existing drainage structure in the rail bed and the existing levee itself, we're gonna have to cut into the existing levee slightly. So that's another area of impact that's gonna have to be reviewed by them. And lastly, I believe it would be Front Street, same thing as Muleshoe, just because we're raising it, we're coming out at a minimal slope, I guess is the right way to say it. So there's not too much of a grade change along Front Street there. Taking that slope out to the end where the existing levee is, we might have a little bit of fill there as well. But that's, once you get to that point, we're just kind of straight shooting that loop that the Army Corps put into it. And then once you get to 80, there's no levee, so.
So Anthony, has this already been out for bid? No?
Out to bid?
Yeah.
No. No.
Okay,
I have a question,
so
Tom.
we're looking at a year from now.
When do you think, what date? I'm sorry, I just had double cataract surgery and I have to buy a whole sack full of glasses to try to figure out which ones fit while they're trying to adjust themselves.
Well, I'm looking at all the things that you have to do, which you're starting now for
Right.
2019, and all these things and everything. So all your specs will be all together and permitting done, and it says bid opening, so you're going to go out to bid about a year from now, roughly.
Right.
So we're looking at a year for you to finish up everything and be ready to go.
It's mostly permitting and that type of thing. There's
Yeah.
so
Got
many,
it.
I mean, the railroad,
Okay.
they said, we'll do it.
Well, we're closer than we were last time. I mean,
Now, you said there was one existing
When
point in
we
there where you're
started.
going to have to do some, or you're going to interface with the existing, right? And you said if that
Two
ever happened,
places.
there's two places, right? That could, that could-
Railroad and I-80.
railroad.
No, he's
98.
talking about 408 stuff.
Oh,
Yes,
408.
408.
Yeah, that would be
That could
408.
extend it, you said, 6 months to 2 years. How does that tie into this?
It's a different.
Well, if we get back on track, we'll cover all that. Because we have it in a slide, so
Okay.
there's a nice little flow chart that one of our sub-consultants put
Okay,
together
perfect.
for us. And
I have another question.
Yeah.
On raising Front Street, can Lander County do it, or does the state have to do it? Because I'm betting Lander County could do it for cheaper than the state.
The raising of Front Street is intended to be part of the same contract with constructing the levee. It will just be one of those phases of construction. We're gonna have to time it with NDOT to make sure we get it paved during paving season, et cetera, so.
Can I just, my opinion on that, and you guys would know more, is it's still part of a government contract, which means you're still following with prevailing wage, so your wage rates would not be any different whatsoever. And I'm presuming that because it is on a state highway, that you will be following the, FP regulations for state highway construction. So whether, NDOT bids it out or Lander County bids it out, you're basically
The
gonna
rules will
have
be
the
the
same,
same.
right, your rules are the same, you'll have the same results.
So the only thing difference is you will be doing this under an encroachment permit process, which means you're responsible to build it per their requirements. They will only have inspection out there and stuff like that if they choose. You're gonna be certifying it to the state that you built it per state standards.
Anything else?
Any public comment, any questions?
We can just cross our fingers and hope that we can get X zone designation so that everybody doesn't have to carry flood insurance.
That's our goal.
Thank
You are aware,
Thank
you are aware that now we're working with FEMA rather than the Corps.
Right, exactly.
Okay, which is
That's what we need to be
simplifying things. but
So
great.
FEMA says it's the banks and the banks say it's FEMA.
Yeah, well, the Oakland office of FEMA is a lot closer than Washington DC, so they're a little easier for us to work with.
Thank you so much, Sheldon. Okay, we're going to move on to number,
No, they got more
oh,
presentation.
you have more?
Yeah.
You want?
No, I thought you were done.
No, we got a lot more.
A lot more? Let's move this on, come on,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll make it quick.
You can
All right.
tell us when you want us to stop.
Yeah. So, just so that Austin can get back on track, we're on the slide that's titled completed as of February 28th, 2019. It has the big blue check mark on it. So these next few slides that we're gonna go through, kind of highlight the major milestones that we've hit today since the last time we were here and gave an update. And then we're gonna look at some highlights that are currently in progress, and then we're gonna look at some stuff that we're working towards in the future, on our end and our sub-consultants. So, just to highlight some milestones that everyone's hit, here recently, the cultural sub-consultant Couts Engineering has prepared a draft of a report that covers everything on their cultural resources end. SWCA, which is our environmental sub, they have submitted a request for approval of jurisdictional determination. So what that'll do is it will give us better guidance on what the Corps is gonna want to see or have us do with this 408 process or this 404 process, which I haven't mentioned yet, but the 404 is the wetlands. The wetlands destruction permitting process, I guess, is what you could say. So however much you're taking has an impact on the time that the review process would take. Our hydraulic sub-consultant has completed or is in the final stages of minor tweaking to the 100 and 500 year floodplain models and getting us those water surface elevations that control what the levee freeboard that Clint has mentioned will have to be at. Hartman, which is the structural sub, has completed the preliminary designs and conceptual plans for the two flood walls that I had mentioned at the railroad tracks and just downstream of I-80 there. And then on our end, we have recently completed a first set of the plan and profiles of the entire levee. Our geotech has a 90% report for soils, and we have coordinated with various landowners that the project will be impacting and started the processes with NDOT and Union Pacific to get approval on what we're doing on encroaching on their right-of-ways and such. Can we go to the next slide, please, Ally? So some stuff that is currently being worked on, Couts, the cultural sub that I had mentioned, they have discovered a cultural resource that needs to be addressed, so that will be all addressed accordingly. And once our environmental sub hears back from that jurisdictional determination that I had mentioned previously, they will be able to go through that 404 and or 408 process that we need to go through for the wetlands and the impacts to the existing Army Corps levee. The hydraulic sub is working towards getting that Clomar submitted, which is kind of what is pushing back this bid advertising and bid opening that Patty had asked about, that whole, process is what's really pushing that date back, because we don't wanna build the levee until we get a conditional approval from FEMA, or else there's no point. So we need to get that Clomar reviewed and approved so that we can start construction on it, and it'll all be certified once we go through that whole process with them.
So when you talk about the 408 and the wetlands and stuff, we're actually gonna have some wetlands,
Very,
some area there that
We're less than an
birds
acre
can
now.
fly into or whatever.
we're less than 1/10 of an acre right now.
Half an acre?
1/10 of an acre, 1/10 of an acre.
1/10 of an acre.
Yes, and that is so that we could fall into the nationwide permit category, which is the least time-consuming permit process of any of them. So if you go into the next tier, which is above half an acre, they tack on a couple months. If you go below a full acre, they tack on a few months. If you go below 5 acres, they tack on a few more months.
So
And
is
I
it in
think-
an area like I
I
said?
think it's all the green here is designated wetlands according
Yeah.
to their flow chart.
Anthony, can you
Thank
tell me,
you.
what is Clomar?
Well, I know the designation, but I'm going, is there actually gonna be water there?
You asked what
Oh,
Clomar
on the wetlands?
You,
No,
Okay,
there's not actually water there.
okay, that was my question, like, will it be trickling in from something or coming up underground or so, birds can fly in or something like that, but the answer is no, not unless it floods. Okay, got it, okay, thank you.
where it rains and it sits in there.
Really rains, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The question came up, what a Clomar is. A Clomar is a conditional letter of map revision. So it's
okay,
conditionally changing your flood map.
okay,
And then once we finish construction and certify the levy, then it would go to the LOMAR, letter of map revision.
oh, okay, great.
Which would be submitting as-built
Right.
in that case.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last thing that I'd like to highlight is we're currently working towards minor tweaks on the levee where it actually sits in relative to where that freeboard needs to be from what our hydrologist has been providing to us. So we're kind of going back and forth on some small iterations and raising it here and there so that we're meeting all those requirements everywhere. Can we go to the next slide? Just some timelines real quick, we can switch to the next one. So this is the flow chart I had mentioned, Brian. If you're looking at it here, it's pretty small up there. Oh, that's not it. There's no levy. Let me go up to it.
Yeah, just talk loud.
So this flow chart shows all the alternate routes that we could have gone, in conjunction to this 404 and 408 permitting process. Right now, the path that you see that's highlighted by the red oval is the one that we're shooting for, and that's the plan, that's what we're doing right now. So that is the shortest path, so, and this is reflected on our schedule, our updated project schedule. So if you look at the 408, due to those minimal areas that I had mentioned, we're gonna be affecting that existing levee. That will be a 6 to 8 month review process. The section 404, which is now a nationwide permit, as I mentioned, we're under that 1/10 of an acre, which puts us in that category. That will only be 2 to 3 months, as opposed to, you can see on alternative 1, alternative 2 on the right-hand side, if we were to impact a great amount of wetlands as we were in the past, before we looked into that, that could take 6 months to a year. So we're in a lot better spot from that perspective today than we were a year or so ago. Can we switch to the next slide, please, Alan? As I mentioned, Couts is just working towards getting that draft of that report finalized relative to their cultural findings. There's gonna be some correspondence that they're gonna have to go through with the Army Corps and some other agencies such as SHPO and NEPA. hydrologist is just working towards making those minor tweaks that I talked about. His turnaround time that he has given us is about 8 weeks before he starts putting together that final Clomar with us to get that in, so that can begin getting reviewed. Can we go to the next slide? The structural consultant Hartman, as I mentioned, has finished those preliminary and conceptual plans for those flood walls. He has told us that once we get a little more detail on that crossing at the railroad there, he should only take about a week to get those designed. Can we do the next slide, please? And then on our end, as I mentioned, we're just working towards finalizing the overall permit profiles of the levee itself. We're working on finalizing our NDOT and Union Pacific Railroad encroachments. We need to work with getting some finalized easements on private land ownership areas and throw together the rest of the stuff that needs to go with the single package for the Clomar. Next slide, please. And then this is just, I guess, for Austin at this point to see the schedule. This is the schedule that we've been referencing and looking at here on the slide here. And then last slide. Any questions? Please.
Any public comment?
I hope it works.
Me too.
I just kinda hope we have a big flood this year and proves we don't need the levee.
Give it a test.
Well, we've been working on this levy for, I mean, I thought we had an accepted Clomar back in like 2010.
Like I say, Clint was about 10 when
Yeah.
he started this.
Well, number 3 on the agenda is where we've been all those past years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that-
okay,
that's
thank
not
you.
my item.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Do you want us, Tom, if you want to stay there, we're gonna hit 3 and then we'll go right on to 4 for you.
Okay.
Okay. Number 3, discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove either payment to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for work done on the Battle Mountain Levee project in an amount not to exceed $1,033,114.52, or to request a second opinion from POPAC and all other matters properly related thereto. Okay, they sent us the bill once, and we said, yo, we're gonna appeal this, and we went back to them with lots of questions and bring us up to date.
Commissioner, you advised me to see what I could to fight this. So Mr. Forjon and myself researched it. We, and I don't want to get into specifics because we would have to go to a litigation hearing to do that, so I'm talking generalities. Based on the direction you gave my office, we challenged that the contract existed, and we said if it did exist, they didn't do anything. So it was discovered that in 2010, 11, 12, a county commissioner, I think the chairman, we had no contract with the Army Corps of Engineers at that time. We had one, it was resolved. They said, okay, we don't owe you any money, or you don't owe us any money. We found evidence that I think it was the chair, flew a $250,000 check to Washington DC, handed it to Army Corps of Engineers, boom, started a contract, and it took them 5-6 months to respond to us. Keith's been in contact with our representatives, trying to see if they could impose their will or influence, and they won't listen to them. They want the money, and so when we found out that we did have a contract and that our county commission itself flew to Washington and initiated it, handed them a $250,000 check, there's nothing we can do
So
with it.
So who flew to Washington and initiated?
Chair of our board.
But how can they negotiate a contract as a single person when it's a board?
Then he gave him the check.
He gave him a check that was based on the county, the whole county commission approving it.
And what year was that?
I'm
I'm not sure.
off the top of my head, and it was Commissioner Bullock.
So the commission did approve it and he took the check,
Yes.
okay.
Couldn't send a check?
So
Well,
we,
that
want-
really doesn't matter. I mean, the contract was initiated, money was paid.
Yeah.
So if we decide to get a second opinion from Pool Pack, we're really not out anything by that.
I wouldn't think so. It's an option. I'm at the end of my rope. We either get a second opinion from Polpack because Polpack handles our litigation. If they think there's something that I missed, great. If they don't, great.
Keith, have we received an itemized bill of what they're saying justifies this $1 million bill? Or are they just sending us this
Oh, no,
thing
no,
that says you owe me $1 million?
Yeah, I've got a
There's something in there.
stack in my office I received about 2 weeks ago of what they say, what they've done. But I would, get with Tom and ask him how, was there any value to what they've done over the last 20 years for $1,045,000 and change?
Yeah,
But
it's page 2, Brian.
Yeah, I got it there. So it'd be, but this bill is occurring from the point that the chairman well, basically the
Well, that
commission.
initiated the
Right,
contract.
so it's not over the past 20 years, we're talking
No, no,
the
we're
past
talking
8
5 or
years or
6,
something.
yeah.
What I'm saying,
I just-
what they've done, I don't think, and Tom, I'd ask you to pipe in here, but
I
there's
knew
no
you were
value
gonna
to
do
what
that.
they've done.
I just have a hard time swallowing.
well, we just decided, I wanna say somewhere in the 2 to 3 years ago, that we were done with the Corps, we weren't gonna do any more with them, and we directed Tom to go ahead and we'll do the levy separately.
Yeah.
That was the decision.
We
from the board.
terminated our agreement with them.
Right, but with
Hence
that,
the bill.
they sent us the bill, and then we disputed it and said, how could you possibly have done all that, so forth, so on, and this is the bottom line. This is what we owe, and legally it looks like that's what we need to
Right,
do.
and we can certainly get a second opinion because it's $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, I would advise a second opinion.
And I'll make that motion to get a second opinion from Pool Pack. What are we out? A little bit of time. Are they
Yeah.
charging us interest?
Have
No,
we,
there's no interest that they're charging, but if I could ask to not limit it to Pool Pack,
Right.
because past history dealing with Pool Pack, they refer back to the county DA, and I know what the DA's opinion is, so maybe we go outside of Pool Pack and go to a lands specialist.
So I
or
will
something.
amend that to, basically, adjust my motion to request a second opinion on the Battle Mountain Levy project in relation to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers bill.
Polpack may, yeah, and that's good, Commissioner. Polpack may want to give an opinion because if we don't pay it, we're getting sued and they have to represent it.
Right.
That's why I suggested Polpack at first. Now, they may want to weasel out of it. Let me remove the word weasel. They may want to not give that opinion and want us to get another attorney. So that was good that you put it that way. Thank you.
And I'll second it.
so if the previous commission back 2 terms didn't do what they did, then we wouldn't have had a contract with Army Corps of Engineers and we could have gone ahead and done this levy project without that?
Yes. Yes.
Well, the decision was to go with the Army Corps of Engineers,
Right.
and then they didn't provide us anything, and they kept dragging their feet,
Yep.
and then the decision was made to cancel that contract and move on, and that's where we are, and this is what we owe.
It took them 6 months to get back to me.
So, we have a motion on the floor.
I have a question, but there was nothing in that contract that you seen, Ted, that we could get out based on underperformance by them or?
Well, no, there's two, when I talked to them on the phone, Mr. Forjan and I, there were 3 different agencies on that phone, attorneys from 3 different agencies. This would be severe litigation in federal court with 3 different agencies. And it's something that Mr. Forger and I don't do a lot of, so we would have to get another attorney, and it may,
Somebody that specializes maybe in
Yeah.
this.
right, and it may just cost a lot more than we owe, to be quite candid.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt to
Didn't we
ask.
get a bid?
It doesn't hurt to ask.
Didn't we look at some kind of bid a couple years ago on the Army Corps of Engineers doing this versus doing it ourselves?
We already had a contract at that time though with them.
Yeah,
That's
and
why they
their-
were,
Their cost was way higher than what we could do it locally.
oh yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Judy and seconded by Kathy.
I think Tom had something to interject there.
I will if you care to.
No, any other discussion and public comment? Go ahead.
Tom Gallagher, I've been involved in this for quite a while. I was 14 when I started, but the fact of the matter is, I've told you this previously, and I'm gonna tell you again, is we have not used anything that was developed by the Corps of Engineers in our design of this levee. We spent years trying to get things out of the Corps of Engineers that we could never secure from the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah.
And
No commitment.
I have not been privy to the contract, but I can tell you if it was my million, I'd certainly be looking for a hole someplace. Because if that contract said they were going to complete something or anything, and one of the newest guys on the project is Anthony, and he's gone back through the whole file. And we can't find anything besides delay that the Corps of Engineers put into this project. So you can take that for what it's
Yeah,
worth.
exactly.
I can tell
That's
you,
true.
it is the truth. We never got finalized anything. Anyway.
Well, that's why we didn't pay the first bill that came in, so that we could, and we
All-
went back to them and we told them that,
All they
exactly
did was
that.
ping pong with
Right,
different
and
agencies.
here's where we are again, so.
Right.
I
again,
never did see the contract. I saw the bill, but I never did see the contract. And I kinda doubt if anybody else sent you a bill like that, if you'd just pay it out of the kindness of your hearts. I sure wouldn't if it was my million. That's just my opinion, and I don't get to vote, so you just,
Is it always like this with the Army Corps of Engineers?
I haven't been around for always.
Almost always.
I can tell you that we've done some surveys with NACO, that they have approached different counties and asked what kind of problems we've had with the Corps of Engineers, and we have submitted the information back.
Does Amadei know about this?
Yes.
Yes.
Can
Well,
he-
I don't know if he knows, I do not know if he knows about the bill.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he
Yes.
does.
Okay.
Okay.
I
He-
haven't,
he-
I haven't had that conversation.
He
with Mark.
tried to intervene on our behalf and they wouldn't,
Okay.
wouldn't go along with it.
They won't budge, so this is where we are currently.
Right, so that's why we need to go up one more level.
No.
I think the only possible out we could have, I guess, is if there is a contract and it does say they're going to do something.
Right.
Maybe they did something that we don't know about. Maybe they fixed the flood someplace, I don't know.
You mean like in their office, some paperwork, or
I-
they snuck out here one night and dug some dirt?
It's probably about 4 million forms worth of getting filled out or
Yeah.
something.
Well, that was part of the contract. No matter what they did, even if it was paperwork, research.
So they just signed, Lander County signed a contract with them with nothing in it that said what they were gonna do?
To get specific, I can't go on the public record to be specific about this, but a contract, I didn't think a contract existed. And then I didn't think we paid them any money to initiate it, and we discovered that that wasn't true, that in fact we did, Lander County did.
Well, I'm just a casual bystander.
Well, I wasn't here at the time you were here, so you may know a little more about it than I do, well, I'm sure you do.
I did not know that they sent 250,000 to the court.
With all your experience, you're not our advisor, our
I thought it was 20,
historian.
it was more than 25.
Do we have
You
any
wouldn't-
other public comment? Okay.
Man,
What was the motion made, so
To direct Keith
go to
to,
pool pack.
to go for a second opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't exclude it to pull back, it
Okay.
was. Investigate a second opinion.
Then we'll go from there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you. Bringing it into number 4. Updated information to the Lander County Board of Commissioners regarding the Austin realignment project by Summit Engineering and all other matters properly related thereto. So the update is in the last few months?
Yes, a lot of it's been taking place in the last few months, and I have some good news, I think. Give one to the clerk, I think, and one to Keith. These are just copies of the maps that we have completed, and I'm sure, as everyone knows, that Mr. Hughes has been kind of a cog in the wheels of progress on this, and as Doug Mills and I talked about the last time I was here. Austin.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, I think he sent it.
yeah.
Michelle, you should have the presentation.
Yes, we have it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll do this, I'll do better next time.
Speak louder.
Okay,
Thank you.
as Doug Mills and I said the last time that I was here, we met with Mr. Hughes, and we had a fairly successful meeting. And I've had a lot of conversations with him since then. I sent him several maps that he has an interest in Austin. And he seems completely happy at this point to sign the maps and let this thing go forward. Now, to kind of explain to you there's currently 19 maps that are done. A lot of them are impacted by Mr. Hughes' property. And we have a PowerPoint that will show you some of the areas that we have completed. But to give you an indication of what we were dealing with, attempting to get Mr. Hughes on our side, which I think we successfully have now. This is Austin. The area in pink is the land that he controls. So it was rather critical. The maps in the land where he controls, we can do immediately, now that he's agreed to do what he told me he was going to do. Now, one of the problems with where we are, and I think the county has been aware of it, is that Mr. Hughes' company, Austin Resources, is not square with the Nevada Secretary of State. So he has it in his hands. He is opening a new company in Utah, he told me, and he's transferring everything into it. So it's all gonna be under one ownership, and he'll be able to sign for everything. So that was a major, major hurdle in this whole process. But now that he will sign the ones that were holding us back, I think we're gonna have lots of maps done immediately. The surveying's all done. We have, like I said, I'm sorry, I did not introduce Caitlin Constantine, who is the one preparing all these maps. And I can leave a set of these with the commission. I can send them to Keith, or however you want to do it. But what we're doing in effect is we're putting a lot of the parcels together. All those little tiny lots, we're putting a lot of them together. And eliminating roads that will never work, putting them into parcels that can be developed, and leaving the roads that will work, and putting new rights-of-way in where the roads absolutely won't work. There's been a lot of work done on keeping on trying to get all the houses out of the streets, or the streets out of the houses, or however you want to say it. But this should move forward rapidly at this point, and he is in complete agreement. As a matter of fact, when I sent him 3 maps that impacted his property, and asked him what he thought of them, and he asked me what I thought of them, and I said, I think they're great, and he said, okay, then I'm fine with it. So, that's where we're at right now.
So are we still on target for the due date that you gave us this summer?
Yes, we've got 19 maps right here, all ready to be done. We have to talk to various landowners out there and be sure that they agree with what we're doing. And the re-subdivision just makes them so that instead of selling a 50 by 100 foot lot or 40 by 100 foot lot, you're gonna have 10 acres or 5 acres or 3 acres. That's something that can actually be developed with roads that actually work and that type of thing. So I'm pretty optimistic this is going to go rapidly at this point. And I don't know if we need to go through a PowerPoint. You've got it in front of you. If you have questions about it, we can only do this into 4 lot blocks on these parcel maps. So we can take 50 lots and make them into 4 if there's 4 different owners of interest or whatever on one particular one, which is one of the Hughes properties. It's at the loop with the junkyard.
Well, we're going to have on our agenda next, the next one, I think, actually choosing a time for a meeting in Austin, in southern Lander County. So with that, and that will probably be within the next 2 or 3 months. So you should really be on target for then, and then we'll let you come in and tell everybody in the southern end where you are.
Right, and we should have a bunch more of these recorded by then. But
sure. That
an
sounds good.
indication would be this map. You're familiar with the loops, with these lots, all these little lots that were in here are now 4 big lots.
And you're gonna leave that with Keith, or let him make a copy, and I'll
Keith
take that down?
has a copy.
Oh, I'll take it back to Austin, that's okay.
We can send
Okay.
them to you electronically, Keith, or however you'd like them.
Do we have any public comment on that?
I have a question. Tom, is this pretty typical of mining towns that run into these problems?
It's extremely typical,
Okay.
because they did have a map done so they could sell lots back when they did these, but
As
the
people needed a
streets
place to
and-
live, they just,
yeah, and they buy a lot and then go build their house wherever they want. And it didn't necessarily hit inside the lot. A lot of these streets that are shown on the original map of Austin are, I think probably up to 40% grade if you wanted to build a street up the hill. So that's just the way they did things back then.
yeah,
And that's,
well, it worked back then.
yeah,
Thank you. Any other questions? I think we all remember the old song, "The train runs through the middle of the house."
yeah,
Maybe
well,
you don't, maybe you don't, I'm dating myself, but it was a cool song.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
remember
thank you
that
so
one, Patsy,
much.
but I'll look it up on YouTube. The train goes through the house,
Oh,
huh?
the train runs through the middle of the house. Yo,
No.
okay, moving on
Keep
to,
that.
planning.
can I go home?
No, you're stuck here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Number 5, discussion and possible action regarding approval, disapproval of a zone change request from the planning department, Randy Key and Cindy Jo Clark Trust, and Jay Wintle, changing 011-060-13, 011-060-14, and 011-060-17 from Commercial District C1 to Industrial District M, 011-060-15 and 011-060-16 from Commercial District C1 to General Commercial District C2. Southern portion of 011-060-18 as listed and shown on Exhibits A and B from Commercial District C1 to Industrial District M, and northern portion of 011-060-18 as listed shown on Exhibits A and B from Single Family Residential District Manufactured Housing Overlay Commercial District R1/MO/C-1 to General Commercial District C2, 011-060-19 from Single Family Residential District Manufactured Housing Overlay Commercial District R1/MO/C-1 to Single Family Residential District Manufactured Housing Overlay R-1/MO and 011-060-01 as listed, shown on Exhibit C and D, from Single Family Residential District Manufactured Housing Overlay Commercial District, General Commercial District, R-1/M0/C-1/C-2 to Single Family Residential District Manufactured Housing Overlay Commercial Districts, General Commercial District, R-1/M0/C-1/C-2, all located in Battle Mountain, and all other matters properly related thereto.
Good work, Kyla.
That was a mouthful,
That's a lot
I'm
of work.
sorry.
Yo, okay,
Okay, so this one needs a little bit more explanation than the ones I brought the last time around. Just so you kinda know what I've done with it. This was another one that was brought to my attention. It was all in C1, which is, within the building, just retail business. And as you can tell by these pictures, this is all out where, like, the Newmont parking lot is by it, Clark Park. You have, what is it, F&H, Mine Supply, Newmont storage areas. So these are all outside of buildings. They should be in C2 and manufacturing districts rather than C1. So went through, again, the master plan, kind of looked to see, make sure that we were following in line with making these changes. The only problem that I ran into, that really funky one at the very end, right here. This was a zone change that was made many years ago. Actually, a couple years ago, sorry. And if you look at the green that's right here in the center, at the very top, it came down and cut off sharply. So it cut off this road, this access road that come out here was coming onto residential zoned land. So I went to the owner, we talked about it too, it was also discussed in the planning commission meeting to see if we could just pop that line up. So there's really no change to the zoning in this area, except for the line is popped up further, so that this road does not directly service a residential area. Because if you're gonna have your industrial or commercial too there, you don't want that road going right into and he agreed, so that's why I put this in here to get this moving along. So it's just another cleanup. It also kind of opens up a couple little more industrial areas for them to carry doing it this way.
so my legal question is, Counselor, to approve this, can we just make a motion as read into the agenda?
Yes,
Number 5.
I will make a motion to approve the zoning changes as read into the agenda
For item number 5.
for item number 5,
I'll
since
second.
we're on that item.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. It's been moved by Judy that we approve this and seconded by Kathy. Any public comment? Job well done, Kyla. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much for that one. Looking good. Number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding approval or disapproval of a zone change request from Maturiga Ventures, Carolyn Mastretti, Joseph Philip Ramus, Joseph Ramus Jr., Bonnie Mastretti, Arizov, Ellen Brewer, Austin Resources, Robert W. Hughes, and Joseph, Malene, Joe, and Paige Ramus, changing 001-248-05, 001-248-03, 001-248-04, 001-244-01, 001-243-01, 001-247-04, 098-100-16, and 098-100-34 from Austin Historical Residential, AHR, to manufactured housing, residential, commercial, MRC, all located in Austin, and all other matters properly related thereto. Okay, so this is a whole district, the whole group that's changing, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I have a couple questions because you gave us some really good information on this, and when it says, like, Bonnie Mastretti, and it says heirs of, so the question is, did they have a right of survivorship, and has that been changed?
As to my knowledge, I spoke with Craig, I believe, recently, who signed the affidavit, and it's not done yet. So it's still in, is there someone in Austin that can speak on that? Michelle, are they there?
Carolyn, you want?
Carolyn?
Could you say that again?
Yeah, Carolyn?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, our question is how the property was actually given to the rest of the family. Was it in any right of survivorship or another name on it, or just Bonnie's sole owner? Does it have to go through an estate?
I believe all this has to go through an estate, or go through probate, and she didn't have a will or anything. No executor.
I think that might present a legal problem for us, would it not? If that parcel is still in an estate and going through probate, there's nobody legally that can sign it off.
That's true.
Yeah.
So question to that is if, since
I'm
it's off.
sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jennifer Triaga.
Thank you.
Since it's off to the side, does that not have to be part of it? Of this zone change?
If
Cause
they're doing the whole
it's not in
district.
the middle of.
Yeah,
Can we delete part of the motion, or part of the item?
Not here,
Yeah, we have to rewrite the item.
Open for public comment?
only on the
Well, it hasn't
application.
been opened yet, but.
I mean, the application is one application. So if part of the application is tainted, the whole application is
It
tainted.
affects everything.
Yes.
We can't pull it out. Yes, Austin, public comment?
Nancy, or Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, hey, my name is Ray Williams, I'm just an Austin resident, and I don't really have a dog in the fight up there, but they're taking a whole big block of the Austin Historical District and changing the zoning on it, and I don't know if that wasn't really planned for in the Austin Master Plan. Unfortunately, we looked for a copy of the Austin Master Plan, and we can't find one here in Austin. So I just wanted to comment, it's just taking a whole big bunch of property and turning it into commercial, and I don't know how the surrounding people are gonna react to that when traffic increases. I've heard rumors of a trailer park and different things up in that area. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate your comments. Actually, it's not a historical district. It's a,
It was zoned under that to kind of coincide with what was done when they formed the original Austin district. We were trying to find a map to see what was on the original map, and
okay, because I remember asking the question about the actual historical district, which is a whole identified area downtown, but it kind of had an overlay of historical
Right.
residential. But, go ahead, Kyla, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Are you guys familiar with MRC? What it was in place for? I know I'm not on AHR right now, but
Well,
MRC.
you're kind of cutting in and out.
Come on up. Just a minute, thank you.
It'd probably be best just to explain it for those that might
Right.
have it,
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
MRC is, and I'm saying this because it also kind of cross-references with AHR, Austin Historical Residential. It was done so that the areas within that area that had some historical reference to it could stay that way. Even though it's a residential slash, right, if you look south,
Right.
there's some MRC down there. There's also MP, which is your mobile home parks.
Right.
It just goes a little bit further and hops into AHR. AHR was put in place, under my understanding, to keep the existing historical there, but also allow for it to move forward. So in her plan, just showing you that that is why it was okay to move forward with that. It's the same with MRC. You see a lot of MRC when people had the mix of manufactured home, residential, and commercial all in one big area. You keep slapping our zoning on it and leave everybody out of compliance. So that's the same with AHR.
Okay, so when this went before the planning commission, they're all okay with all of that part,
Yes.
right? But the question now legally is because they came in to rezone, and ordinarily, you come in and fill out an application, and each person fills out an application and rezones. In this instance, it's the whole district, so there's one application, everybody was in tune and in concert with this. So were letters sent out to the other, yeah, Ray, letters were sent, and they didn't receive any comments back at all. But the problem legally
Totally legal, this is totally legal and not necessarily a bad thing to do. It's just the problem is if some of them can't convey title.
Right, and we can't, it doesn't seem at this point.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it, just one additional comment, wouldn't it have been more appropriate to have a kind of a hearing here in Austin and show everybody that this is what you're gonna do to a big section of the plat?
Well, a couple of things that I, like,
You're not just changing one lot. I thought originally it was just, the one area that was being changed, but then
well, that's because I can't spot,
we're changing that whole section there.
I can't spot zone change, or else I would just try that and leave everybody else out of this. The only reason I'm doing this, I mean, if Austin Historical is so important, they would have made that Austin Gridley store is not even part of Austin Historical. That's MRC. I can't hear you when you interrupt me.
Something about this, what's going on? You know, you're changing a big section of town. It's not just one lot.
So, what's wrong with trying to make Austin a little bit better? I don't live there to put a mobile home on it.
But there's the one lot that we thought was gonna be a trailer park already has a motor home and a travel trailer,
Ray,
hauler on it.
Ray, excuse me, I think this is gonna be kind of a moot point, and I understand your point, but legally we did it as it should have started. But because we have a problem with the legality on one of the parcels right in the middle, I don't think we can take any action. That's our advice from counselor. Is everybody okay with that?
I am. I do have one question for you, Kyla. Okay, which one was?
So I think we're looking for motion.
Oh, this one?
Right, they just have to reapply without his piece of property, or to exclude it, or do the
Or to
estate
waive.
first. But
Well,
that
we
may
don't
take
need
a
a
long
motion
time.
if we just can't take any action.
With that, we need to bring up Robert Hughes while we're here. I didn't get a signed affidavit from him either.
Okay, well,
So we need that.
so we need a motion to deny this? Or just
To
no
at least
action?
table it until, as is, because you can't,
Okay, well,
you
we
can't
can
approve it as is.
We can table it, or I can make a motion to
Right.
defer it.
Right.
Just table it. Well, actually, I would probably it might be cleaner if we do make a motion to defer this, or
Because you can't
direct
approve,
the applicants to resubmit.
it can't be approved as is.
Right,
Okay.
so I'll make a motion to direct the applicants to resubmit to correct the,
Why don't we just clean it up and just like a motion to defer it, because it cannot be approved as is?
well, and that's kind of what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, otherwise you're directing somebody to do something.
Well, okay, I will take out direct, to make you happy, is we will make a motion to defer this until it is corrected and brought back before us.
So just, I'm sorry, Judy, but just the thing that we're trying to clarify is the legality of the land transfer to who'd like to,
Yeah, there's
Right,
one
because the
potential.
application is coming in as a whole district,
Right.
that's why,
okay.
not individual property owners.
Otherwise, we'd be able to pull them out, but it's just one application.
So, can I ask, Bubby, can you hear me?
Ray?
Yes, go ahead.
So, what is your problem with getting it out of Austin Historical? And it's not like Austin's ever had too much of a traffic jam. You were saying like if there was, too many people up
You never know,
there.
when you make it commercial, there might be, maybe another grocery store up there, or hardware store, that would be helpful, but.
Well, I can't with Austin Historical.
So I guess I do have a comment on this.
I don't have a problem with that, I just wanted to look at the master plan and say, what was in the master plan for that section, and
Okay, now we'll have an opportunity to do this, and maybe we can get some more communication before it comes back up. That'd be great, Jennifer. You had a question, Commissioner?
Well, I have a comment, and, well, I guess I do have a question for Kyla to clarify that this is creating a commercial zoning on these parcels, correct?
It is,
Okay.
it's a specific. It's
Specific
not.
commercial zoning in what respect?
So you have MRC, which is anything in TC or C1. So they're not gonna be able to open up, let's say, the C2 that you see over here where things are outside of the
Okay.
stores. So TC is tourist commercial, and R1 is everything is stored within, so storage shed, units, things of that sort. Okay?
Because I guess one of my issues I have is the fact that as it's designated now as Austin Historic Residential, you got that keyword of residential. And, because this is really not on the main street of Austin, it's outlying, is, you're turning this residential property into a commercial zone. And especially when it's already currently considered historical, and now you're gonna make it also commercial. So, I know that we've made the motion, and we haven't voted yet to bring this back with the corrections, but I'm just putting it out there that my personal feelings are, we're doing a lot of commercial real estate transfers and whatnot, and, is it following the master plan?
Absolutely, I would not bring it in front of you if it did not.
Well, and I appreciate that, but it's just something to kind of consider.
I'd like to point out too, it's like, it did go in front of the planning commission, they're an advisory board to us, they specialize in this. There's been a lot of time for people to show up and to testify or to speak their behalf, and so it's not just something that's being dropped on our laps today, so. And it's, I do put a lot of trust in our planning commission that they do their job.
Well, I do as well, and typically, I've voiced it before, is I take the recommendations.
As far as the historical part, I just have a question. Would it appease everybody, especially in Austin too, if I could show you exactly what the uses are currently and what the lots look like and what historical value is on those specific lots? Bringing forward to show if they feel that removing the historical aspect is okay or not?
Well, if Austin wasn't aware of what was going on and still wants to check with their master plan, of course, this will give them some time, and Kyla, you can be in touch with the folks in our southern part, and so we'll continue on that. I still don't have a second on to defer it.
I'll second to defer.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? All right, the motion is to defer it because we cannot approve it the way it's come before our board. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's take a quick 5-minute break, and we're running kind of late, but I think we can finish everything up. Our commission back to order. And we are on number 7. Update and information to the Lander County Commissioners by the Lander County Finance Director, who is our fiscal officer, and all other matters properly related thereto. Ms. Cindy.
Cindy Benson for the record. Okay, sorry I did not get my backup in your packages, but I hope everybody has one now.
You have to speak up, Cindy.
Sorry. I wanted to report on our accounts receivables, accounts receivables for the second quarter for fiscal year 18-19 are as follows. Water was 108.
Excuse me, just a minute.
Okay.
Could you hear any of that, Austin?
No.
Okay. Let's turn that around again for her, and I'm sorry.
I'll have to
It's
speak
nice
up.
to be soft-spoken, but they like to hear too.
Okay, I'll start over.
Thank you.
Accounts receivable for the second quarter for fiscal year 18-19 are as follows. Water, $184,553.36. Sewer, $180,698.20. Water and sewer miscellaneous, $9,235.68. Landfill, $32,357.78 for a total of $406,845.02. The outstanding balances as of December 31st, 2018 for water is $19,992.86. Sewer, $21,313.95. Water and sewer miscellaneous, $1,967.20. Landfill, $13,022.90 for a total of $56,296.91. On the second page, I did the quarterly fund balance report. And on this, for the second quarter of fiscal year 18-19, the total revenue for the second quarter was $3,757,133, which is up 42.11% compared to last year's second quarter. And the total expenses for the second quarter were $8,701,756, which is up by 439.79% compared to last year's second quarter. And I also wanted to let you know that I have scheduled the budget workshop for the third week of March, and so it will begin on March 18th. And that's all I have.
It usually takes us 2 days, right?
We're gonna schedule for the whole week, just in case it takes a little longer, but I'm thinking 2, maybe 3 days is all that it should,
We're gonna schedule the whole week?
Just in case.
just in case.
And what were those days again?
Starts March 19th,
18th or 19th?
18th, sorry, 18th.
Monday, March 18th.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a question. For budget, I would like to know what the percent of our operating funds we spend on wages and salaries.
Okay,
Okay, that's,
can do that.
I think last time we checked that, we're like 72-73%.
I just asked that question a couple weeks ago.
Yes, and I haven't
Yeah,
had time to finish. I'm sorry.
We don't wanna go much higher than we are right now. We're very comfortable.
So do you want that for this this year or for the next,
Well,
for the next budget year?
Yeah, for the budget year, just,
Okay,
you know, like it's 71 or 72%, something like that.
okay.
Cindy, on the outstanding balances, what do you guys do when you're trying to collect? I mean, these are December 31st, so we're, 2 months now.
Well, this report was done with the numbers that ended on December 31st. It's just taken us a while to get those numbers because of switching over to Tyler.
Oh, so
So-
it's not really an accurate reflection of what they could be
No,
now?
it was as of December 31st.
Well, and I guess still to that question, say you do have an outstanding balance on receivables, over 2 months delinquent, what do you typically do? I know at a certain point it does put on the tax, it's put on the tax.
I believe Tammy sends out late notices, and then, when they hit 90 days, she starts making phone calls to these people and, basically telling them if they don't pay within a certain amount of time, they close their accounts.
Okay.
On water and sewer, I believe if it's not paid, it gets, it's a lien on their taxes, they just pay it that way.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have adjusted to spending big dollars, Patsy. Remember the first time I was reading the checks and I couldn't believe we were spending millions of dollars. Now I see we spend millions of dollars.
Number 8, discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove the renewal of the contract for Hinton Burdick CPAs and advisors, auditors for Lander County for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2019, 2020, 2021, and all other matters properly related thereto.
Shouldn't we have the treasurer here for this?
We do the audits, we're responsible for the audits, yeah.
So my first question is, usually we've gone 2 years at a time. We've been comfortable with that, and I see this contract is for 3.
And didn't we decide a while back that we were gonna go with 2-year contracts?
Yes, yeah, you did. This, so when we put this in the agenda, this is the contract set forth by Hinton Burdick that the DA's
Right, they
office.
sent it to us.
So if you want it reduced to 1 year, 2 years, 10, however you'd like to do it, we will make that adjustment, and then we'll let Hinton Burdick know.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, I'm always more comfortable with a 2-year contract, but the other thing is, when I was through here, unless I missed it, I didn't see the 30 or 60-day termination.
And I know we talked about it, I believe.
Yeah, we agreed that that was gonna be standard.
But it says it came from them, so I guess, Council,
This
do
is-
you have anything else? Did you get a chance to go through it?
I did look at it, and you're right with those 2 things. This is their offer, and what we usually do on this, you tell me you wanted to modify it, and tell me
Okay.
how you wanted to modify it, and I'll modify it and bring it
And
in
send it
front
back.
of you again.
Okay,
Was it 60, when you had it in the past, was it 60 days?
we
clock?
usually go 30, but I think you go 60 for
We
the
went 60
auditors,
for
don't
the
you?
auditors, 60 or 90 would be.
Okay.
60, 90?
And-
60, 90?
And the pleasure of the board?
Well,
2 years,
I wanna stick with the 2 years, and I wanna definitely stick with the notice deal that we can end it, and 60 days, good?
What do you feel, 60, 90? This is a contract that it may take 60 or 90 days to send all the information to somebody else. It's a very important contract, so
Okay.
you don't wanna give them, you wanna be able to have a small amount of time if you want someone else, if you find something inappropriate, but by the same token, you also want everything to be turned over in a good fashion. So I'd go at least 60, 90, maybe.
Okay.
How long have we been with Hinton Burdick?
2 years. This is a new contract, and they just
You guys,
finished the
and
2
you're
years.
happy with
Mhm.
the work?
every so often we go out and try and bid it and whatever, but, this is the first 2-year contract we've had with them. And Cindy, your input on working with them?
I'm happy with working with them, they're very helpful.
I like the way they address corrections versus who we had before. I think they're right on, they're spot on, and they address it and articulate it. With that, I'll make a motion to request that Keith and Ted get together and contact the CPAs and tell them that we want a 2-year and a 90-day clause in the offer that they've made.
90-day termination clause?
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion is made that we modify the contract and remaining with Hinton Burdick CPAs and advisors, and to go back with a 2-year contract and 90-day termination clause. So it was made by Art and seconded by Brian, I guess it was closer to me. Yeah. Any other discussion? Any public comment?
Just,
Do we need to put a time on this?
I just wanted some clarification. With those 2 changes, make it a 2-year contract and a 90-day termination. Do you want us to just make those corrections and then approve the contract, or do you want to reread it after those corrections come back?
Well, it needs to come back.
Oh, not necessarily. If we're okay with the contract with the modified by 2 corrections, it wouldn't need to. Now, if they are unhappy with it and come back with something else, so then it needs to.
Well, we could too, I mean, if Ted makes the corrections, Art, and then if you find something in there that he doesn't like, it would have to come back to us anyway, correct?
Right,
But otherwise, it wouldn't have to.
right. It depends on if they'll let me make the corrections or they insist on making them themselves. I think if they insist on making them themselves, I should bring it back in front of
Okay.
you. And then at that point in time, you approve it for signature or whatever.
Okay. They're helpful, Cindy?
Yes.
They're helpful?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any disapprove? Okay, and that passes. We are on number 9, Commissioners. Discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove the proposal from Robin Gray, DBA 7 Valleys LLC, for the Lander County Mosquito and Black Fly Program, and if approved, to sign the mosquito abatement agreement and all of the matters properly related thereto. Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, with that, I did have a couple questions. Not so much for you, Robin, as for our executive director as we go into this. The first thing is, I see it says Lander County, however, it's only directed to the north and Battle Mountain. And if you read through on the contract, it actually says, if we want to change anything, we have to do it in writing, we have to agree, you have to sign, and so forth and so on. We had a real problem last year with the West Nile virus in Kingston and Austin. And it showed up, and our county manager went with it, and Robin responded immediately.
Yes.
With her employees, and they took care of it, and they were treating it. But in reading the contract, that isn't quite the way we really should have done it. So I would like to change that a little bit. Let's look at the new contract, right at the very beginning where it says, whereas, and then it says the abatement of mosquitoes and black flies in northern Lander County, and maybe we could add southern Lander County if required.
That's fine with me. We just need to be, if we're gonna go down to Kingston or Gilman Springs or Austin, you just need to ask, that we do it, and then we'll do it.
But that way, we're in compliance with the contract by
Sure.
just adding that in there, is what I'm saying. So if everybody's comfortable with that. The only other thing that I see that was last time we kind of did the same contract, and I had a question over on the last page. It says obligations of Lander County, and it lists all the things. And the very last one in there says, sell your phone for weekend use, and I think that was probably fine 6 or 7 years ago, but don't you have your own cellular phone now?
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that old contract, and I do kind of vaguely remember people putting it in there, but I've never needed it.
Okay,
And
good. Can we take that out?
Yeah, take it out.
I thought you probably have one by now, so we're going to take away number L. Did anybody else have any questions on the contract?
All I can say is Robin does a great job. You remember, Brian, when we didn't have mosquito spray and Mr. Norris bought us all bug lights?
Yeah.
That was horrible.
So Commissioners, just for some clarification, it's been several years since the contract's been updated. So what we did was we did include it, it's an annual renewal, and it does have the 30-day out in it. So we did add that.
We did actually go out for bid a couple years ago. I know we did.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else even applied, so that's why we are going out for bid again, and we certainly like the work that you do.
Very
Oh,
much.
definitely, I appreciate it. We don't have the biggest mosquitoes, but we have the hungriest.
Okay, with that, we need a motion to amend and approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Robin Gray, Seven Valleys LLC for Lander County Mosquito and Black Fly Program, with the adjustments that we made to the language.
I'll second.
Thank you, Art made the motion and Brian seconded that. Any other discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you so much. That is unanimous, and we move on to number 10.
Madam Chairman, before we go to the next one, I'd like to take the opportunity to, on number 3, when we were discussing number 3, I made a misstatement about the amount of money that we paid them. In fact, it was $125,000 rather than $250,000, and I want to make sure that that clarification is on the record.
Okay.
Thank you. So noted, we will put that on. I did notice in the backup, it did say 225, but I thought we were pretty close. Thank you,
Okay.
appreciate that. So noted. Okay, number 10. Update and information to the Lander County Board of Commissioners regarding the Lander County Emergency Medical Services, presented by Myron Wall, Northern Lander, and Kim Schott, who I don't believe is here, Southern Lander, and all other matters properly related thereto. So I guess you get the whole county.
Yay, well, that's good. I
Kim
probably
had
should
a
give you.
family issue she had to deal with, so she will not be here.
Thanks, Myra.
Thank you.
We had asked you to get this to us ahead of time. Remember that?
I asked, I was told it didn't need to.
No, always, because we have Southern Lander County on the line, and all our information should be ahead of time and in the public information.
I've always said you guys need it up front. What's that? Oh, one to that? One to- No, leave it this year.
Okay. So, sorry, I'm still nervous.
I'm sorry.
This is Myra with Lander County EMS North, Myra Wall, W-A-L-L. So the information that I have given you is copies of, our, year-to-date call sheets that we normally give out. And then I was doing a compare and contrast from last year, 2018 to 2017, so that's what the other ones are. So last year, 2018, if you'll notice, we had a total of 905 calls. This is total Lander County, North and South, Austin, Kingston, and Battle Mountain combined, with a 46% transport rate and a 54% non-transport rate. So all that basically means is that out of the 905, 415 were actually transfers or transports to the hospitals and airports and such. However, in 2017, it has increased because we had a 35% transfer rate at that point. So out of 817 calls, we only transported 290. So I kind of felt pretty happy about that. And I was trying to run current reports from till yesterday, but ESO IT called, and I called the IT, and they said that their report systems are down. So I pulled it off of, and I have it written down, but so far the reports, like you can see up there, it dates to February 12th. So there's a little bit of changes. So currently, as of this year, from January 1st to February 12th, we had a 60% transport rate. There was 83 calls done total, with 50 of those calls being.
Excuse me just a minute. Austin, can you hear Myra okay?
Sure, just fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Byron. I can speak up. Anyhow, so I'm pretty excited because we have some new things that we are working on. One of the biggest ones is I have hired a basically second in command. He is also our education coordinator. The guy has so many initials behind his name that it really can kind of frighten you, but he is a critical care flight paramedic, so that now makes me being able to have 2 on, so 5 days out of the 7 days of a week, we are actually covered with critical care paramedics. All that means is that they basically have the same protocols and scope of practice as those that fly in. Ironically enough, they still fly too, so that helps us with an insight on transfers, like from hospital to hospital. And so we are in the process right now of upgrading our protocols, because the protocols that we have they're pretty old. Our medical director is Doc Peters, and I love him to death, but there's been a lot of upgrades in the medical system, as you can imagine. So we are in the process of doing that so that it can really delineate what an EMT can do, what an advanced EMT can do, and then what our paramedics can do, either regular or critical care. So it's pretty exciting. It has increased our revenue tremendously. We have already, from January 1st to yesterday, we have done 34 transfers, meaning from our hospital to another one, whether it's Elko, Winnemucca, Renown, any of those hospitals. That being said, we are continuing to increase it. We are working on just the actual protocols in this transfers. I should back up. In the transfers, it also includes from our hospital to our airport, to a higher level of care too. So what we used to do before is we'd run out to the airport, pick up the flight crew, bring them into the hospital, and it was just delaying time like crazy. So when you have these critical patients, it's easier for our critical care paramedics to go grab the patients with all the stuff, take them out to the flight crew. It shaves off hours of time, so gets them to a higher level of care faster. That's been our biggest goal. And then the reason why they were just so far down from last year, even transfer times for 2017, was just because we didn't have the staff. to basically staff our second out ambulance. So a lot of that stuff was getting turned down, and the helicopters basically just kept coming in and taking even our BLS patients that we should have been able to transport out. So that is where we are going right now with the protocols and our transfers. The other things that we are working on is our community paramedicine. Sorry, that's echoing. I am now fully licensed, have been for a while. We are completely waiting on getting our patients, so we have the protocols, if you will, of what a community paramedicine patient can do or can be put into the system. We have those out to the doctors so that they can look at them and pick the ones that need to go, because they have to go, it has to be, they can only be put in the system by a doctor or a nurse practitioner. So we are anxiously waiting for our first patient. That actually sounds really bad, I'm sorry. I'm encouraged for the program because I think it will help save the county actually quite a bit of money, and it's works so much better with our patients that are needing a little bit more tender loving care. So we have also started a operations and training night. I have said, I think from the beginning, that I've taken this job that I cannot stand the term Southernlander EMS and Northernlander EMS. I know that it's just delineates, but it to me it sounds like it's a we want to do our own thing and we're up here. So we Kim and I have been working very hard on trying to correct basically that stigma, and it has been, these operations and training nights have been a lot of fun because we've actually been able to get to know our people down south, if you will, whereas it didn't happen a lot before. So that kind of hasn't been encouraging. I've heard nothing but goods come from the operations and training night. TC, my second in command, has a master's in education, so he's been an EMS instructor and he's done paramedic classes like forever. So he has created, I think we have a total of 12 since December. We've had 12 different things. So just kind of fun things to look forward to, getting everybody caught back up on time, and we are anxiously waiting for our new ambulance. It's here. We are working on getting that one basically set up as a transport ambulance, but it can be worked as a second out ambulance if we need to. So one of the other papers I gave you was what I received from Cindy Fagg on the financial aspect of it. She was giving us net revenue for the last 6 months minus the expenses, and then the operating profit and loss, as you can see. So net revenue was $211,377. Expenses from that time was $369,835. So you can see the operating loss with the county subsidy. The hospital's loss is $98,458. That made me have a very sad, droopy face because I am working my tail end off to try to make that be in the positive, and I think we are actually doing that a little bit more every month, just with the new changes. It used to be a lot worse, so I can say that. If you guys need the breakdown of it monthly, I'm sure we can get that to you if you would like that. And then the last one was just we hired TC in November, and so he's been pretty key instrument in helping me get those transports up and going. We now have a duty phone for the paramedics to call around, so it's one number. It's given to the ER. We gave it to the sheriff's office. Anybody that needs it that can call needs the paramedic or the crew, instead of trying to figure out who's on shift, what's their phone number. And that's also increased, time to get, or well, I should say decreased time to get, patients out of here if they need to, so. With the community paramedicine, I just went through a deep training. It's a diabetic education class that I can now train, so when I go to, community paramedicine patients that are maybe diabetic, we now have, I can train them in how to change their lifestyles. Anyhow.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. You have the training to change what?
I can now teach them about everything diabetic. So if they need to change their lifestyle, eating habits, how to take care of the diabetic.
So you would do that under the paramedicine, like if when you went to their home to check on their blood pressure and stuff, make sure they're testing okay?
Yeah, that program is designed to do it as a group, and so we can take the education piece of it individually to their home, and then the ultimate goal is it's about 6-week long course, 1 day every week. But until I get a diabetic group up.
No, that's okay. I was just trying to put it in the right context because we're thinking of you as EMS, meaning emergency, so you're racing somebody to the hospital. I thought you want to take the time to train. I'm missing this.
Oh, no.
But I have to put it back on the paramedicine part.
Yeah.
With the seniors that you now are saving them the time from going into, and many of them don't go in to see their doctor again.
Absolutely.
And may I ask, is that gonna work in the southern end at all?
Yes, it's for all Lander County. Yeah, so if you know of people that have it, just let us know. I'm trying to work on getting like a referral form that we could probably get to Ann. That would probably be good, actually.
And the Nevada Health Centers, that's the two main ones, Ann and
down there,
Nevada
okay.
Health, yes.
Okay.
So it'd come in properly.
Because that would be good to get through.
Absolutely.
You said Nevada Health Centers?
Yeah, they know the ones that come in that need that
Okay.
extra attention too.
I'm sorry, actually, I did. I totally overlooked Ann. I got everybody else, but I overlooked Ann. I'm sorry. Yes, that's what we're working on. So.
Tell me about your new deputy commander.
Yes.
Is he here in Battle Mountain? Or is
He lives in Twin Falls. So he commutes, yes, but he's here 3 days a week, so 72 hours. And he got our sim man up and working. It's basically this guy, the mannequin can talk to you, he can tell you he hurts, you can put different rhythms on him so that the paramedics can go through the whole process, even advanced EMTs and EMTs, for crying out loud. You can get IVs. He's pretty neat. So they've been taking him over to the ER, and because two of the paramedics are critical care paramedics, they've actually been training the docs on codes and all sorts of things.
So he's licensed in both states?
Yeah, 3 states actually,
Oh,
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You had asked about the breakdown, and I would like to have the breakdown availability, not necessarily to come before us each time, but if you could have maybe Cindy send it directly to our county manager.
Okay.
And that way we have it, especially when the contract comes up.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we do that on a routine basis and just make sure she sends it over there, and that way if we want to check it, we can.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for coming today and updating us.
You are welcome.
Good job, Mara.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just had surgery on Friday. So
And we move to
Looks
number
slow.
11, update on the Austin Youth Center and discussion of possible action. Give direction to the building official on a plan of action and all other matters properly related thereto. And with this, we actually did have a meeting, as I reported before, in Austin. The community came out, it was wonderful representation. And we got their input, we understand it's a county building, it's our decision what we need to do, and what we would like to do, but of course, we wanted the input from Austin and what they would like to do. So, their input was, yes, we want to keep the building as it is, how do we save it, what's our next step? And they did put together a action committee that we can work with as far as information, so we don't have to keep having all the meetings and such. We'll just keep in contact the way we go. So, with that, and I did have some information in here for you. I'll let Anna address this first.
Anna Panola with the building department. What would you like, what do you want from me?
Just your input of where we are and what you know.
We're nowhere because I haven't been directed to do anything.
Okay, so Anna was at the meeting, and we haven't done anything, so she's waiting for our moves, and
If I may, Commissioner, perhaps, I can lead into this. It's my understanding that the building is part of a historical district.
yes.
And historical district, there can either be a federal restrictions on the historical district, state restrictions, or local restrictions. We have no local restrictions. State restrictions, I haven't looked into to see if we have any state restrictions. They may impose no restrictions on what property owners may do with the designated property, or may require adherence to certain historical rehabilitation standards. And that's what we're talking about. If the county goes ahead and rehabilitates the building, if the state requires us to follow certain rehabilitation standards, it is going to be very costly. I do not believe that there are any federal restrictions, even if registered in the federal government. But I would have to look under, if you want to go that way, I'd have to look, and Anna and I would look and see if there's any state restrictions on rehabilitation projects.
I think there's some federal too on the standardization if you do start. I've seen something.
But the feds let you get away with this. I can tell you that the feds, because it's the park system.
If you had a chance to look at your letter, you will see the next thing, if we decide to go ahead, is an architect and or engineer with historic building experience that will guide us through this. SHPO also said that there are different grants available, so we may even look to something like that.
If there are restrictions, there may not be.
Well, I think that we actually need to
Get an assessment.
Yeah.
is find out what the restrictions are, if any, before we move forward. Because,
well, I think I can provide all of those, but I think hopefully you could make a decision before that. Because the bottom line is, we either fix it or we don't.
Right.
But when you fix it, you have to fix it according to the guidelines. We can't pick and choose.
well, that's what we need to know what the guidelines are first.
So we know the cost.
Exactly, I mean, if there's restrictions, it's gonna impact the cost of it, but if there are no restrictions, then we can fix it, and it's gonna be a lot more, reasonable. So the question is we need to know what the restrictions are, if any, before we decide whether to move forward or
To
not.
save the building or not?
Well, I mean,
Okay,
is it,
because we know we can't fix it, this way and that way. We can't just get a contractor to come in and fix it. That's not allowed according to the NRS.
Right.
So, we either, if you decide no, we are not gonna keep the building, then we have to look.
Well, aren't we gonna see what the structural engineer says, if we can rehabilitate part of it, it is not rehabilitatable, or we have to, can't do
Right,
anything,
but what
so
we're
there's some,
saying is, okay.
we gotta start with an assessment
Okay,
first.
but- Well, that's if they choose to do that, right? If you chose to tear it down, I don't even know if we'd be allowed to do that. We'd have to legally look at a way to see. I'm trying to give you your options here.
well, and I understand that, Patsy, I guess what I'm trying to say is, the next step would be is to determine cost-wise of whether or not we can tear it down or not, and if we want to, but we need to know first what the restrictions may be before we can go forward, because if there are none, we can get an engineer's estimate to come in and give us a cost estimate of what the repairs would be, and then we could decide whether it's feasible or not. But until we know what restrictions are possibly on that, we can't move forward.
The restrictions
Well-
may be cost prohibitive, and it might be better to buy a piece of property and put a steel building and upgrade it so that we can put computers in there. I want these kids to have a place to go. And I agree with historical preservation, but if it's gonna be cost prohibitive and it's gonna be less expensive to have a new facility, I'm 100% behind that. And I agree, we need to know what the restrictions are and what the cost would be, and compare it.
Absolutely, but you have to make a decision of whether you indeed want to go ahead with it, that's what I'm saying.
We are making a decision. If we decide for a motion to
Hire the architect or the engineer with the historical background, but we don't know the price.
excuse me,
His price.
why are we gonna hire an engineer or architect with a historical background before we find out if there are restrictions?
Because there's plenty of restrictions, and I
Well,
can
do
give
we
you
know
that.
what those are? So, my feelings are is we need to know
You're not,
what we're
you could
dealing
read the
with.
restrictions all day long, honest, and I don't think we'd have any idea of the cost. I really don't, I mean,
I don't wanna move forward until I know it costs. That's
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
agree
Okay,
with
but-
Commissioner Allen, Commissioner Sparks. This is like the cart before the horse.
no, the first thing is to find out what it's going to cost you.
No, because how can we know what it costs if we don't know what we have to do to it?
We can't have somebody research the restrictions on this and bring it to us and,
And that would be my,
And who would like to do that?
Well,
Yeah,
first
how do
off,
we do
guys,
that?
correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're getting a cost, wouldn't it entail a lot of the things that we can and can't do for them to properly give us like a cost estimate?
well,
Yeah, right.
I guess the thing about it is Brian, I'm not sure, Patsy did mention, who would we hire to do this to find out what the restrictions, possible restrictions could be? That is,
It's gonna be an engineer or an architect.
well,
to
not
tell you that.
necessarily. I mean, the thing is you can go through, whatever NRS's, stipulations, whatnot, that could be minimal cost to find out what's involved. I mean, whoever does the research to find out what restrictions are there.
Okay, as far as all the standards and everything, if you read the letter that came in from SHPO, they give us all kinds of places that we can go and look up the standards.
Okay, then, so
But
we
that's not gonna
direct,
help us with the price.
well, we need to know if if we can meet those standards before we get an estimate. And it's not gonna cost anything to request that somebody research that to find out what is needed to restore it.
didn't we have somebody look at that and
We
make
had
a
a-
bid?
We had a licensed roofer and a contractor go down and look at the roof to replace the roof.
Right, just the roof.
Right, and according with his assessment was,
Yeah.
it's in bad shape.
It's in
Yeah.
bad shape.
The building, it's not even sitting on the building, even though it's been like that forever,
Right.
it's in bad shape. And would,
And SHPO says that we have to have someone with historical background to make those decisions for us.
Keith, did you have something to say?
Yeah, if I may, commissioners, if you would allow myself and, or however you wanna do it, we can look into getting what the restrictions are and get it back to you what the restrictions are, and we could even look at getting a cost estimate based on those restrictions. It's not gonna happen it's gonna take a little bit of time, but we can do that, get back to you with the report on the restrictions and a cost estimate through those restrictions and an engineer. So there's gonna be some money involved, but we can do that. I mean, it's not like we're gonna go spend $100,000 to find out how much it'll
Yeah,
cost.
well, I don't wanna spend
We gotta find out-
$50,000 on an expert. And also, I would like you to look into any available property there that's the adequate size for a
For
building.
location and,
Right.
Yeah, I want the kids to have a place to go, and I want computers there for them for research and whatever else they do.
So I believe what I got back from the meeting is that the Austin, people do not want the building tore down. They want it rehabilitated or refurbished, rehabilitated. So we can go down several of those roads and get you a good.
With that, yeah, we're gonna go for public comment. Austin, you have some public comment?
Yes, my name's Gail Utter. Art, in reference to finding another piece of property, that isn't really the object. The object of it is not just being the youth center, we wanna save the building, period.
Right, I understand that.
Probably one of the oldest buildings in Austin.
I understand that.
So, I guess is what I'm saying is, at one time it was brought up, could we possibly redo it and get it back good enough? We could use it as a museum type thing or something, put a false glass on the front, put fire trucks and stuff back down there and use it that way.
Well, now we have two different issues. We have one is historical and the other is, community center for the kids. And how long is it gonna take to rebuild that building and the kids don't have any place to go?
The kids don't have any place to go right now.
That's my concern, which is gonna be the quickest, and, we can address the historical issue in the future.
So it's what you're saying is not to give up on the building.
No, I wouldn't give up on the building, but I wanna move forward for the kids in Austin. And then we can address it with historical monies to get it declared historical or whatever, and look for grants to have it done.
So you want an agenda item on, for a youth center currently that they can use in Austin, is that it?
Yeah, I think we should.
That's a whole different matter, that's not what's.
Yeah, that's different,
Well,
but if.
as discussion ensued, we wound up with two different issues.
So, okay, well, I just think before you guys can get a cost analysis or anything, we need to know about the building itself. I'd like to get a structural engineer. I don't think it has to be historical engineer to see if to see what shape the building's in, to go forward with any other decision.
Can Tom look at it?
If I'm directed to do that, I would have an engineer look at it and come back with some better information for you
Okay,
guys.
yeah, we need more information.
So I guess that does kind of alter my idea of the motion, but I'll try and phrase this, to request that Keith and Anna research the building into any type of stipulation, regulations that might be necessary to maintain a historical status, or is it truly a historical building? And also, is it structurally feasible to?
Because the latter may not even apply to the first of what you're saying.
Or you wanna see if the structural integrity is even there.
Exactly. We can't go anywhere until we know that.
So basically check the structural integrity and see what regulations might be in place.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, any other public comment? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we direct Anna and our accounting manager to move forward for to determine the structurally, if it's to go forward, with anything else, and that's the first thing we're going to do, okay? Judy made
As
the
well as
motion, Art
the
seconded.
permitting,
Excuse me?
the regulations.
Well, your historical people are gonna know the regulations, but yeah, we can at least pull it out for you, so keep going. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
I'm opposing that, so am I the only one? Okay. All right, and that passes. It is noon, and we just have a couple left, so we're gonna move right straight through. Number 12, discussion and possible action regarding the Nevada Division of Water Resources fiscal year 2019-2020 groundwater basin budgets and adjustments for the following basins. A, Antelope Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $15,466.39. B, Carrico Lake Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $1,994.90. C, Middle Reese River Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $23,515.36. D, Boulder Flat Groundwater Basin in the amount of $981.26. E, Clovis Area Groundwater Basin in the amount of $11,754.56. F, Big Smoky Valley Northern Park Groundwater Basin in the amount of $535.33. G, Lower Reese River Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $11,180.92. H, Whirlwind Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $14,463.93. I, Crescent Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $36,698.39. J, Upper Reese River Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $4,688.21. K, Humboldt River in the amount of $23,053.83. L, Kingston Creek, Big Smoky Creek in the amount of $2,695.33. And M, Cobat Valley Groundwater Basin in the amount of $6,838.42, and all other matters properly related thereto. And this is the amount that we received from the Nevada Division of Water Resources, and we are to do the billing on it. And I did have one question. Actually, it's signed, if you look at your information, it's the county clerk that actually signs this and sends it back to the Division of Water Resources, saying that we certify the state engineer's budget for payment of necessary expenses, and assessment rate has necessary to support the proposed budget, and we have acted upon it. However, all these that are in here need to be changed and sent to the current state engineer, not Jason King.
And we don't have a current state engineer that I'm aware of.
Then we can just send it, what do we send
To
it
the
to,
state
acting
engineer's
state
office.
engineer?
To their, I don't know who the interim, if they still have an interim state
Well, if we
engineer.
do, we can find out. If not, we'll just take the name off. Okay, that is
So
all
I'll
set to go.
make a motion that we approve the Nevada Division of Water Resources fiscal year 2019-2020 groundwater basin budgets. And
Authorize the certificate to be signed.
authorize the certificate to be signed.
Second.
That was a second? Thank you. Moved by Judy, seconded the motion. Any discussion? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, with that, we are moving into correspondence. Number 13, correspondence reports, potential upcoming agenda items. We have identified a couple, I guess.
Yes, put on the next meeting for the date that you, the commission would like to do the Austin meeting. We have some other things coming up. Oh, and then grants. I think we need to, before we actually get into the budget workshop at the next meeting, we should talk about grants that have been submitted to the county in excess of $4.3 million worth of grant requests that we should probably talk about a little bit prior to the budget workshop. So we've got quite a big grant request in.
How much was it?
4.3, it's in excess of 4.3 million.
For what?
The majority of it is Austin Water and Sewer
Oh,
District Two.
okay.
But they're asking for more money, for next, to roll over what you previously approved in the past.
And that was,
2.3, I believe, from last year, and they're up to 3.9, I
they
think.
need this much money?
There's some, I think it should be discussed.
Okay,
The whole
okay.
Austin Water Sewer District Two and the money they're asking for, and their future in general.
That may be, that should be an agenda item of its own rather than put it under the auspices.
Yes.
We should discuss that district.
Yes.
Because if we're gonna be paying $4 million what's the use of the district?
Yeah,
So if you're,
okay.
if you're okay with that, I would like to put that on the agenda for discussion.
The district
Yes,
itself.
yeah, it's set-
That's a
the
great idea.
grants in general and in the district. I should have separated that out, but yes, correct.
Okay, when we have our meeting in Austin, I would really like to, make a presentation to Frank Whitman.
Give them a plaque or something?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely a plaque. and
Good idea.
A big plaque. Maybe some sandwiches and, you know, take a break at lunchtime.
Sure.
Honor the man that spent countless hours. And I mean, when he researches something, he crosses Ts and dots Is.
Okay, anything else for the agenda?
Actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Keith, I sent you the email from Lou Lonnie,
Yes.
and I think probably timing on that's pretty good. He's very, I did get an email from Kyla that she needed a letter from Lou, and I think that email should suffice
Okay.
for the request.
Kathy, did you have
While
something?
we're in Austin also, I'd like to see, like Art had mentioned,
We
about
can
a-
discuss this when it's on the agenda
Well,
to
no,
move
the
it to
youth,
Austin.
yes, for our youth center, some considerations of how to get that down aside from this building. Is that something that can be put on?
No, you're gonna put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Then we have a meeting in Austin, so we might just wanna, include other things that we'd like to do while we're in the south, make that a more general agenda item.
Southern, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
general.
rather than just setting the date,
Okay, absolutely.
okay?
So discussion and possible action regarding a date in the southern Lander County for a commission meeting as
And
well
other issues,
as
yeah.
potential agenda
Okay.
Okay.
items for the south.
Anything
Sounds
else?
Motion
Okay.
to adjourn?
Where, no public
Oh, we
comment.
have public comment, sorry.
And I'm giving you a chance to comment too, even if there's.
I didn't.
Public comment, okay. For non-agenda items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and or attend and make comments on any non-agenda item on the board meeting, and discussion of those comments in the direction of the board. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person, again at the discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comments based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. Public comment is open. Hearing none,
Motion to
I
adjourn.
make a motion.
Judy made the motion, Art seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, thanks, Austin.
Thanks, Michelle.
This is Lincoln County. This was the draft